Bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oh, yeah, man. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio. For the masses. Yeah, how you doing? Today's Monday, January 30th. 30 days into the new year, just 335 days left. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black. For KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Yeah, man, let's do this. Ah, man. Back in the chair. Tonight, back with us, Del Bigtree, producer of the documentary Vaxxed. Oh, yeah, man. Del Bigtree. And a little bit later on, Sean Stone is going to be here. That's right. The Hawk Watcher, Buzzsaw. Got a new show on Gaia. We'll be talking about all of that. What a great week we've got lined up right here on Fade to Black. Tomorrow night, Mark McCandlish is here. We're going to be talking about the alien reproduction vehicle and some other stuff, too, as well. All right, so that's tomorrow night. How cool is that? Mark McCandlish. And then Wednesday night, Whitley Strieber joins the show. And there you go. I'm going to take Whitley. I'm going to take Whitley along with you into zones that, you know, he just may not have covered in the past. That's the goal on Wednesday night. And then Thursday night is another Fader night with John Rappaport. The call-in number is 323-825-5045. Wow. Feels good to be back in the chair. Had a great weekend. Went to go and watch, did a midnight viewing of Star Wars Rogue One. Rita and I went at midnight, and it was great. Loved it. I mean, I heard all the great reviews, but everybody just loves Star Wars. It doesn't matter, right? So you get the reviews, but I got to tell you, that was a pretty amazing flick. It was well done. It was well done. The story was there. The acting was there. The CG was great. I expected that, but I like the way that they did it this time around. And pretty good stuff. So that's what we did over the weekend. Of course, we cooked out and did some stuff. And yesterday, I played the plumber. Yeah. Yep. At the house, had to figure out how to turn off the water, the main water valves to the house, and then fix the toilet. And I got to tell you, I pulled it off, and nothing made me feel better than Rita when she turned to me and she said, "You are my hero." Yeah, but I didn't. I'm going to leave out the part where Rita and I dislodged a hose and flooded the bathroom. But Good times. Good times. So that was our weekend. Let's do this. I'm so fired up about this week on the show and next week too as well, leading into the Conscious Life Expo. Nothing but good stuff around here. So in a great mood. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's what you want to do, at JChurchRadio. Very simple. Facebook, YouTube, you know what to do. Just go over to our website, click on those little icons, follow, like, and subscribe. You can also email throughout the show tonight. I got a lot of really good email over the weekend. Normally it's like 50-50, right? It's like half and half. You know, half of it, you know, critical, half of it great and glowing. But nothing but glowing stuff this weekend. And I didn't line those up. Maybe I will pull them up during one of the breaks, and I'll read some of those to you. Pretty cool. Okay, the sandbox is hashtag F2B on Twitter. We don't bite. Come and hang out with us in the sandbox. Any questions or comments during the show tonight, use hashtag F2BQ. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, and thank you to everybody, all the new subscribers over the last couple of weeks. Wow. I mean, the numbers for this show have gone up so much, and it's just across the board. It's on every one of our syndication, all of the networks, YouTube, Twitter, the likes on Facebook, and the subscribers, and it's nuts. Our Alexa ranking, it's crazy. You know, it's like the little show that could. And we have just done all of these amazing things, and it's because of this audience. So I want to thank each and every one of you. You guys are the best. The Fadernauts, this family, incredible. Do subscribe to our podcast. We have over 600 archive shows. By the way, tonight is show number, officially, 599. Tomorrow is our 600th show. That's the official show. We misnumbered things in the past and have messed up, and some things were numbered twice, and we never went back and fixed it, and we went backwards a couple of times and split shows up. So we're actually somewhere around 620, but we've been accurately numbering things since around show 100. It was prior to that where we just lost things and renumbered stuff. And but let's just go with what we know, right? So today is 599. Tomorrow is 600. And our guest will be Mark McCandlish. Unbelievable. 600 in the bag. That plus all of the coast to coast and television. I have no idea how many interviews and shows we have done, but it's been unbelievable to just even say that number, 600. It's crazy, but here we are, right? Okay, so it's, we're not going to celebrate too much this week. We're not going to run this in the ground, but today is number 599. I'm looking at the number over here, and it's just trippy to see. So subscribe to our podcast where we have over 600 archive shows. Custom apps, Apple, Android, all platforms, Google Store, iTunes. You can download the apps for free. And then the podcast is only $2 a month. $2. I want my $2. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the podcast banner, and help support the show. All right. And don't forget to check out all of our sponsors. Okay. That's how the show runs. We run with sponsors and advertising. Please click on all of their banners over at jimmychurchradio.com. Use the promo codes for discounts and free shipping. And all the info is there. Everything that you need. Please go and support the show. All right? The first big conference of the season is coming up. I can't even believe I'm about to say this, but next week, February 10th, it's here. The Conscious Life Expo at the LAX Hilton, February 10th through the 13th. Both of our guests tonight, Del Bigtree and Sean Stone, will be there. Tickets and info over at jimmychurchradio.com. It's right here at the LAX Hilton in Los Angeles, California. And if you can't attend, just get yourself the live stream. And when you order the live stream, you can see right there, live stream menu. What is there? Fade to Black. How cool is that? So you get to see Fade to Black live on the video stream. And then right after that is Contact in the Desert, May 19th through the 22nd in Joshua Tree, California. Also, tickets and info are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Let's get this show cracking. Right before showtime, at 10 minutes till, President Donald Trump fired Acting Attorney General Sally Yates for refusing to enforce a legal order designed to protect the citizens of the United States, end quote. Wow. Man, what a crazy... Wait, today's the 30th. It's been 10 days. All right, 10 days. So much action out of Washington, D.C. More on that in a bit. Happy birthday to today. Phil Collins is 66. Gene Hackman today is 87. The French Connection. The Royal Tenenbaums. Or Get Shorty. Take your pick. I'm going to divert that one right over to Twitter right now. Where is it at, everybody? Is it the French Connection, the Royal Tenenbaums, or Get Shorty? When you think of Gene Hackman, where are you going? Because those are three of my favorite movies of all time. Hands down. And he starred in all three. All right. Also today, K28 is 29. Happy birthday, K. He's already tweeting out his Guinness extra stout that he's drinking down in Long Beach. All right, our dead guy's birthday today. You know, we make references to this guy all the time. And every time I say downtown Burbank, I think of one thing. I do. Rowan and Martin's Laughing. Happy birthday to today. Dick Martin, 1922 to 2008, died at the age of 86. Comedian and director. He directed quite a bit. Who co-hosted Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In comedy program from 1968 to 1973. And they were so far ahead of their time, what that program was all about. And it was probably a little bit too rowdy and too radical for television back then. But it was funny. And he was the leader, right? And today, I just don't think they had any idea how groundbreaking they were. But, and then eventually, check this out. Martin married Playboy Playmate and Beyond the Valley of the Doll star Dolly Reed on August 22nd, 1971. They divorced in June 1974, but then remarried in 1978, and they remained married until his death. One of the funniest guys ever in the history of everything, Dick Martin. Happy birthday. All right. On this day in history, 1948, Gandhi is assassinated in New Delhi by a Hindu fanatic. This day in 1948. Fader fact. Every night, every single night, the United States Constitution is lowered into a safe that is bomb-proof. And that is a Fader fact. All right. Tonight we've got Del Bigtree, producer of Vaxxed. We've got Sean Stone coming up in a little bit. Tomorrow night, Mark McCandlish will be here for our 600th show. Wednesday night, Whitley Strieber. And Thursday night, Fader night with John Rappaport. All right. Let me hit this River Moon coffee. Oh, shameless plug. Now, if you go to Conscious Life Expo, the owners, the proprietors of River Moon Coffee are going to be there. And rumor has it, they're going to be handing out free coffee. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Maybe. I don't know. You got to attend. Get yourself some of this bean that I'm sipping on right now. Oh, thank you for posting, Dick Martin. Check out my man. That was a funny dude. You know, he had a tuberculosis when he was a kid. They cut out a lung, and he ran with one lung, and that's what he ended up dying. He had a Popeye Doyle, Gabriel, coming in strong. Crimson Tide, I'm with you, John. I'm with you. Crimson Tide was good. But French Connection, Royal Tenenbaums, ooh, Get Shorty. And Get Shorty might be the top of that list. And one of the funniest things that I can read, by the way, are the posts that are sent to me from YouTube. The ones that complain that I rag too much on Donald Trump, President Trump. And I don't. Here's the thing. I can guarantee you that those posts come from someone who has only listened to one show. Anyone who was here listening last year knows that I spread my vitriol, my nastiness. I spread it pretty evenly because I don't like anybody. But here's the other thing. I've also said that whoever gets elected, that we needed to put our differences aside and to support the one that makes it to the Oval Office. And that happened to be Mr. Trump. And my opinion on that has not changed. But here is the other thing. That doesn't mean that we, you, and I, myself, that we stop questioning everything. Support doesn't mean a blank check. All right? We do the conspiracy of politics on this show. We do the conspiracy of everything. Politics happens to fall underneath that umbrella. And Washington is a big cesspool of conspiracy. All right? But it doesn't mean that you get a blank check. No, we have to question everything. It's our job. That's the checks and balances right there. Right? We can't allow somebody to just run amok. And in any of the branches. And of course, there is another other thing too as well. Having a complete whack job conspiracy theorist, extreme alt-right dude running the White House is supposed to be a good thing, right? It should give us hope. It's what we've wanted. We wanted to be heard. Well, at least the conspiracy stuff. We've wanted a voice in Washington. And now we've got it, right? But I'm not talking about Trump. I'm talking about Steve Bannon. Man. America has spoken, and I get that. And the message was that we were tired of the political status quo, and I get that too. We demanded change, absolutely. And we got it, right? Yeah, we asked for it. But Bannon may just be a little too much of a change. Dude is honestly nuts. He's completely out of his mind. All right, there's no sanity there at all. But that's who's pulling the strings right now. And that is the conspiracy of Washington. We have a conspiracy nut right-wing guy actually writing executive orders. You need to think about that for a second. It may just be a bit too much. And to be really honest here, I'll say this. I don't think he'll be around for much longer. All right, so don't panic. It's not that big of a deal. The test drive with Bannon is just about over. Because even the most conservative right wing right now is freaking out. Trust me. So with that, no more Trump news from me. I'm not going to do it. Not going to talk about this crazy 10 days. No, not going to do it. I'm not. I'll let it ride on 22 block for now. I'm just going to let it ride. We'll ride this thing out. And I'll let the Guy Fawkes mask do the talking tonight. Because today, Anonymous has announced its Op Resistance campaign. Something that promises to stir up that civil disorder and unrest unless President Trump and his administration resign. Now, this is Anonymous. This isn't me. Save the post, save the email, save all of that. I'm just reporting. I'm just reading the press release. Okay, that's all I'm doing here. The hacktivist shot out a warning to the newly appointed leader of the free world with a press release and video published on YouTube that demands the resignation by the 28th of February. Some things you can't make up, my friends. Claiming that since Trump has taken up office in the White House that, and I'm quoting here, they have witnessed an unprecedented attack on basic human decency and civil rights, end quote. Yeah. A website with a countdown timer to the installing the regime has also been set up, and you can go check it out right now. The opening footage of the video message shows mobs of protesters clashing with authorities. You know what I'm talking about, tear gas, billy clubs, a nod to the organized mass uprising that they claim will be unleashed if their demands are not met. Now, you don't mess with Anonymous. I reached out to my friends at Anonymous today. I just wanted to make sure that this was the real deal, and I've been assured that this is a real op. Okay, so there you go. You don't mess with Anonymous. Now, Anonymous has issued the following demands. 1, that Donald Trump resign from the office of President of the United States by the 28th of February, 2017. 2, that the current administration submits its resignation by the 28th of February, 2017. 3, that the interim administration be made of senior elected officials of the independent party, thus removing any bias or unwanted opposition misappropriation. Number 4, that early, free, and fair elections are called on as soon as possible. So that's their list of demands. Interesting. Again, that's not me. This is Anonymous, and I'm just reporting this to you. You can go check it out right now. All right. So, that's not the biggest news of the day, though. And you would think that it was. I could sit and talk about this for the next 3 hours, no problem. But I'm not, because something bigger happened today. Something so big and so huge, and it's not being reported by the mainstream media. No, it's not, but we're going to get links up here in just a second, because California, man, I love this state, is trying to require Monsanto to label its popular weed killer Roundup as a possible cancer threat. That's right. Despite an insistence from the chemical giant that it poses no risk to people. Now, a judge tentatively ruled this past Friday, right now in the state of California. California would be the first state to order such labeling if it carries out the proposal. I have a feeling this is going to happen. Monsanto had sued the nation's leading agricultural state, California, saying California officials illegally based their decision for carrying the warnings on an international health organization based in France. Monsanto attorney Trenton Norris argued in court this past Friday that the labels would have immediate financial consequences for the company. He said that many consumers would see the labels and stop buying Roundup. After the hearing, the firm said in a statement that it will challenge the tentative ruling. Of course they will. And of course you're going to have immediate financial consequences. Got another 49 states that are going to follow suit. They're going to get right in lockstep with California. Somebody had to be first. Proud of this state. Roundup's main ingredient, glyphosate, which has no color or smell. Monsanto introduced it in 1974 as an effective way of killing weeds while, I'm quoting here, leaving crops and plants intact. It is sold in more than 160 countries, and farmers in California use it on 250 types of crops. The chemical is not restricted by the United States Environmental Protection Agency, which says it has a low toxicity and recommends people avoid entering a field for 12 hours after it has been applied. Shortly afterward, California took its first step in 2015 to require the warning labels. The International Agency for Research on Cancer, a Lyon, France-based branch of the UN World Health Organization, the WHO, classified the chemical as a probable human carcinogen. That's where we are at today. Attorneys for California consider the International Agency for Research on Cancer the gold standard for identified carcinogens, and they rely on its findings along with several other states, the federal government, and other countries, court papers now say Fresno County Superior Court Judge Christy Capitan still must issue a formal decision, which she says will come down soon. This is some of the biggest news that I can bring you on any front right now. Monsanto being held to task. I'm just going to say this. When we bought our house, and I went over to one of our leading Home Depot, Lowe's type stores, and you do the things that you do when you get a new house, and you're getting stuff, whatever, light bulbs and things and cleaners and that, whatever. And we're stocking up on stuff, and we were installing a new yard, right? And in our, we had weed, little things popping up. I was just like, oh man. So I go to the guy and say, what do I get for you? Roundup. Get a big bottle of Roundup. That's what you get. Get a big bottle of Roundup. So I did. And that bottle has never been used. It's a big thing with one of the, a pump thing, and you sitting in the garage, never used it. Because I had watched a documentary on Roundup, like it was weird too, that day or the next day. And I freaked. And I never used it. So it sits, and I won't. And I am so happy about this decision, and the state of California standing up to one of the biggest chemical giants, biggest corporations in the world, Monsanto. All right, this is Fade to Black. Coming up after this break, the one, the only Del Bigtree, producer of the movie Vaxxed, which absolutely changed things in 2016. John Rappaport involved. It's all going to be talked about tonight. Del Bigtree, Vaxxed. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter right now, at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. You can follow Del Bigtree at Del Bigtree on Twitter. I'll be right back right after this short break with Del Bigtree. Stay right there.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, folks. In a world of GMO, genetically modified organisms, that is, chemicals, processed foods, and a healthcare system that's unraveling like a cheap suit, it's time to prepare. God created herbs, and herbs help man. Our body can heal itself, just sometimes we need assistance. You need some help? GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Our mild detox is quite powerful with its unique blend of 8 different herbs. And if you're looking for more, our non-GMO GMO supplements will help you with different needs you might have. Health should be a top priority. Take care of your health naturally. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Give your body a treat. Let the herbs do their thing naturally. Read all the testimonies on the website, getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Sickness and viruses are like intruders, and herbs are like warriors. Let the tea work for you. That's getthetea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Kletsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fade or Nots rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back to Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Del Bigtree. You can follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Very simple. Any questions or comments for Del, just hit us right there in Twitter, hashtag F2BQ. Del Bigtree was an Emmy award-winning producer on the daytime talk show The Doctors for 6 years. With a background both as a filmmaker and an investigative medical journalist, he's best known for combining visually impactful imagery, raw emotional interviews, and unbiased investigative research into stories that push the envelope of daytime television. Then, Del began investigating a story of a whistleblower and the fraud perpetrated by the CDC. He then looked into the wrongful destruction of Andrew Wakefield's career, orchestrated by Big Pharma and the UK Department of Health. And the documentary Vaxxed was born. Tonight, we're going to discuss the movie Vaxxed, its impact, how it has changed Del's life and Andrew's life and Polly's life, and what happened in 2016, and, of course, moving into the future. I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, Del Bigtree. Del, good evening, sir.
Jimmy, it's great being here. I've been looking forward to this. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, you know, looking back, the first time you were with us, it's hard to believe, but it was April 2016, just after the launch of Vaxxed. And looking back, Del, was the impact of the film what you expected?
You know, honestly, looking back that far right now feels like I'm looking back 7 years. Last year, so much happened that it's like I lived literally 8 to 10 years in 1 year. It was an amazing year. And, you know, I say this, I get asked that question a lot. What I say is the moment I watched the rough cut, I mean, many amazing synchronicities took place that landed me in the basement of Andy Wakefield's house, where I'd flown myself because I was curious about this story that he was working on, this documentary about the CDC whistleblower, Dr. William Thompson. And I was watching this very rough cut of what he was putting together in the film. And I sat and looked at it, and I thought, if I bring what I do to this film and work with Andy and take the information that's here, that I believe is the biggest story, news story in my lifetime. I said when I was looking at it, this is going to make Watergate look like a nursery game. So I predicted that it would be explosive and that it would be extremely visible and there would be a lot of fiery debate in this nation and around the world about it. But that you have those thoughts, you've never experienced something like that. You can think that to yourself. I can tell you the experience of that explosion, the experience of that, very fiery and heated debate that's been on me since the moment that I have been involved. I could never have predicted what that would feel like or what that would be like or how how fast and outrageous that ride would be. It has been beyond anything you can imagine. So I knew something big was going to happen, but the details of it and how it continues to grow and how it continues to affect this discussion, both in this nation and now around the world, I am in complete awe of it. It's outside of me, and it has been the whole time. And people think, you made a movie, and I talk about the movie, and they think I'm celebrating the movie because I made it, that, this is a great tool, it's changing the world. But the truth is, I look at that movie as I guess it's almost like a child, or anybody that's an artist knows that the great artist, the great art that you do in your career, the great pieces or the great movies, they take on a life of their own. You almost just feel like you were channeling something that was coming in, that wanted to be made, that had to be made. That's what Vaxxed turned into. I remember when we watched the final cut of it, I had tears in my eyes. I was just sitting there in awe thinking, who made that movie? I mean, that movie transcends the ability of everybody in this room, and it has affected people. I think the most surprising thing, if I was going to say the most surprising thing, was I am amazed how it affects people that are totally against it. Of course, average people come in, people with injured children, people that are pregnant, that are questioning vaccines. They're incredibly moved by the movie. But I have never seen something. I mean, I did a lot of work in music. My wife was in a band. I've done all of that. If an audience is against you, it is almost impossible to turn an audience that's against you around. An audience that doesn't like your music or your film or what you're doing, you can't turn them around. You can take an average blasé audience that doesn't really care, and you can make them care. But it's really almost impossible to shift someone's especially a vitriol towards you, which is what I experienced. There are doctors that will come to the film, or scientists, and on occasion they'll get in my face before the film and be very, very angry with me, saying what I'm doing is dangerous and that I'm risking babies' lives. And I just say, I am so thankful you're here, because it takes courage to be here and to face, somebody else's truth. I believe it to be the truth. But thank you for coming in. And they'll say, well, I'm just here to do research. And every time that I've had that experience, those doctors come up to me afterwards, sometimes shaking, sometimes with tears in their eyes, and they say, I came here kicking and screaming. A brother dragged me here, or a friend, and that movie just changed my mind. And that I could never have expected.
John Rappaport, as you know, he works with us, and he hooked us up last year, and we had the privilege of sitting, viewing the film with you at its premiere here in Los Angeles. And I didn't know what to expect, but by the time I got to the end of the film, I thought to myself, what is going on here? The CDC are supposed to be the good guys, right? They're supposed to be the defenders of the faith. And clearly, you get to the end of the film, and that is not the case. The CDC is not on our side, are they?
No, and that is a disturbing reality. And it's something that it's not the movie you ever dreamed you'd have to make. I mean, this is an agency. It's the most important health agency, not just in this nation, but in the world. It's the agency that's supposed to be protecting our children and our health. And to find out that they've been corrupted, it's just, I understand why doctors are frustrated by it. I understand why they don't want to watch it or they don't want to face this story, because what it means is it's going to challenge what we know to be true about the safety science around vaccines. But I didn't say it. I didn't make it up. Andy Wakefield didn't make this up. This is a very real scientist at the Centers for Disease Control who is now a whistleblower, just like the whistleblower that exposed the tobacco industry and all of the store-bought fake science that was taking place around tobacco. It's the exact same story. The only difference is this is a product, tobacco was never meant to heal you. This is a product that's supposed to be good for you. And then you find out that they're doctoring and manipulating the studies and throwing away data and destroying hard drives in order to protect the pharmaceutical industry that is putting putting out a product that is clearly dangerous to children. I mean, it's hard to wrap your head around, but no. And you know what's really fascinating is for all the people that there's things that surprise me. I'm a progressive liberal. I grew up in Boulder, Colorado. I fought for the environment. So I've been surprised that group of people are one of the ones the most against me. I don't understand why we fight to label GMOs and clean up our water and our air, and then as soon as you say there's the same toxins we're taking out of the water and air are being injected into our babies in vaccines, and now you're like you're crazy. So it's just amazing what's taking place. It's amazing how the CDC, has put together this lie, and then people that challenge it. Well, the Huffington Post, someone wrote an article about our film in Huffington Post, and they took it down. Like someone reviewed the film and said, you should see this, and Huffington Post took it down. I said, oh my God, Huffington Post? How's that? That's a paper I read my whole life. I thought they were into health and free speech and things like that. Yet then, I think it was like 2 months ago, they did publish a story of 12 other scientists from the CDC, from the very same CDC, calling themselves, I think their acronym was SPIDER, Science for Ethical Research, and they came out making the exact same accusations. They're not in the vaccine department, but what they said is, we 12 scientists are reaching out to all of the media to inform you that we are being forced to manipulate our data, to doctor our science, and do illegitimate science to the benefit of the industries we're supposed to be investigating because the CDC has been corrupted. Huffington Post did put that story out because they didn't mention vaccines. That's the only difference. But it's the exact same story. So now not only do you have Dr. William Thompson, you have 12 more scientists that have stepped forward and said the same thing. The CDC is corrupted. It's owned by the industries we're supposed to be protecting people from. We have a problem. And these scientists are crying out, please to the politicians, please to the media, get in here and investigate and do something here because people's lives are at risk and we're not being allowed to do our job.
One of the things that I took away from the screening, was the film, of course, but the amount of families that were there because their children were affected and they had questions. And you went on a 2016 bus tour across the country. Was the same thing happening in different cities across the country where, parents are coming up and they knew something was going on? And, it must have happened city after city.
It was city after city. I think that was, again, the things I was not ready for. When you make a movie, you interview like 10 families and you go through their stories, and it's really horrific.
Right.
But nothing prepared me for the ocean of families that were out there.
Right.
I was actually at the third or fourth screening in New York, in the first theater we were opening in. I just decided on a whim. I said, you know what? Would everybody in the audience with a vaccine-injured child please stand up? And 3/4 of the audience stood up, of a packed house.
Incredible.
And I felt like I got punched in the chest. And that is when we began interviewing after. We started, Polly, my co-producer, one of my co-producers, started interviewing these parents after the film on what was their story. And you're right, we then got a bus, the Vax bus, which is back on the road now. Polly's out as we speak, collecting stories of people all across the nation. And we have people sign the side of the bus with the name of their injured child. It's a driving memorial. It's incredibly powerful. Many children that have died, babies that have died, those that are autistic or paralyzed. I mean, the list goes on and on. But I cannot describe to you what it's like to every night for almost an entire year now speak in front of large audiences and meet sometimes 50 or 100 new families of vaccine injury. This is not a small problem. This is not 1 in a million. I can tell you that as a fact because we had 5,000 signatures all over our bus within, I think it was 2 months. And we'd only been in 4 states. That means that we've met everybody that's supposed to have been injured in the country. And we haven't even made it to half the states yet, but we plan on it. We're going to be in every state, and yes, it's everywhere. It's worse, by the way, in states like Mississippi, where they have been mandating and forced vaccinating every child, unless if that wants to go to school. California just passed this exact same law, but Mississippi was the first to do it. They made it so that you could not go to school without being fully vaccinated, and they have the worst autism rate in the nation. They have other skyrocketing health rates, but I was just there working with some mothers there on passing some new legislation to bring back a philosophical exemption. But do you know that the 10 years in the last decade in Mississippi, autism has increased 562% there under a forced vaccine program? So you do see a difference in the states that force these vaccines upon their kids and have higher rates of uptake in vaccines. You have higher rates of autism. Does that mean it's causing it? Science will say, well, that's just anecdotal. They'll say that, a parent saying that my child got the vaccine and then hours later had a seizure and then lost the ability to walk and lost the ability to talk. They say, well, that's just anecdotal. Okay, maybe it is. 1 story, 2 stories, 10 stories, 100 stories, 1,000 stories, 10,000 stories, 100,000 stories. We're now reaching millions, or certainly hundreds of thousands, reaching nearly 1 million stories across the world that are exactly the same. Right after a vaccine, my child lost the ability to walk and talk and regressed into autism. At what point do we allow the pharmaceutical industry to keep telling us that this is anecdotal evidence? There is something wrong with the science you're doing. We now have too many scientists at the health agency supposed to be investigating this, telling us they're committing fraud. So I'm telling you, vaccines, can and do cause autism, and probably a list of other rising childhood illnesses that they refuse to investigate in correlation with vaccines. For instance, you can read on every single label inside of vaccines, which will list all of the horrific vaccines, all of the horrific ingredients your doctor wants to tell you, doesn't want to tell you about, and also all of the injuries that we know happen from the vaccine. You read that, but it says has never been tested for carcinogenicity. So it's never been tested. Does it cause cancer? And what's now the leading cause of death in children? Leukemia, cancer. So I'm not saying the vaccine causes cancer, but when that has now risen and increased, and now it's becoming a leading cause of death, and these products you're pumping more and more and more of into the children say right on the label, we didn't check and see if this causes cancer. You know what? I'd like you to check and see. I'd like you to check and do that testing. I'd like you to do that study. I don't think it's that outrageous to ask for things like that, and those are the types of questions I'm asking of this incredibly corrupted machine.
Yeah, what recourse, Del, does a family have if they have questions or they feel that there's some kind of liability here? What can they do?
Well, there's not very much they can do. I mean, one of the things that we point out in the film, and I try to point out to people, is that the pharmaceutical industry has no liability because the 1986 Vaccine Injury Compensation Act, what happened is essentially the pharmaceutical industry blackmailed Ronald Reagan. They said, we're going to stop making vaccines because we're getting too many lawsuits and we're tired of it. And since this is a part of your health program, we think the government should take the liability and take it away from us. Ronald Reagan didn't want to sign it, but he acquiesced because the Supreme Court had ruled that vaccines are unavoidably unsafe. And if we're going to make people vaccinate, then we should take on the liability. And so they built this vaccine court system that's really not a real court. It's not like you can sue the pharmaceutical industry. Now you have to sue the government. And more specific, let me try and explain this because it's really outrageous, and it points to why we have the problem we do.
My blood is boiling already, Del.
Yes, it's going to blow you away. So now you don't have any liability on the industry that's injecting products into your babies. The moment you took the liability, by the way, that's when you saw the increase from 10 vaccines to like 70 vaccines, because now we can throw them onto the market. We can pump them to the kids. No one can sue us. What difference does it make if we didn't do enough testing? And so we just see this growing, vaccine program. But get this. This is something that's sort of new to me as I really wrap my head around it. When you go to vaccine court, when your child is injured by a vaccine, they're immediately paralyzed. I have a friend, one of our cameramen, his child is paralyzed from the waist down. immediately following a vaccine. First of all, you have to recognize within 3 years. You have 3 years to figure out that it was the vaccine that did it. If you figure that out and you go into this court system, do you know who the defendant you sue is? When you're suing to have your child taken care of because they were injured by the vaccine, do you know who you're suing?
I have no idea.
The defendant?
Who?
Health and Human Services, HHS, which is the mothership of the government. HHS sits over the CDC, the National Institute of Health, the FDA. This is the head of our health department. So you're suing HHS. HHS's job now is to defend the United States government against you and your child and prove that we did not injure your child. This vaccine did not injure your child. And you know what we're going to use as proof against you? Our own science, because we're the Health and Human Services. Our CDC did the studies, and as it turns out, vaccines are perfectly safe. Therefore, we're not going to give you any money in this court. I mean, it's like having a murderer that's doing their own forensics on the gun and the bullet and the blood and everything else.
Has anybody ever?
The conflict of interest is just unbelievable.
It doesn't even sound legal. Has anybody prevailed in vaccine court?
People do. Since vaccine court was created, it has paid out over $3.8 billion in damages. So anyone that wants to say that vaccines are safe, I say, really? $3.8 billion does not sound like it's that safe. And in fact, that court system has to put out all the data of who got paid and what happened last year. We just had an over 700% increase in payout to injuries from the flu shot last year. Because what are they doing? They're pushing flu shots in every commercial, every store. You walk through the airport now, they're giving out flu shots, and now we have a 700% increase in injuries. Many of them paralysis. People don't realize you can get Guillain-Barré syndrome from flu shots. Says it right there in the label. Your doctor didn't tell you that. Whoever this person is standing in this dirty, Walgreens or CVS or, that's firing this needle into your arm as though it's water, doesn't tell you right in here, one of the risks, you could be paralyzed from this. But I think, if you wanted to take that risk, that's up to you. I personally don't understand taking a risk of paralysis when the flu is only going to make you sick for 3 or 4 days anyway.
Before we head to a break here, I want to make something very clear. I want to hear it from you. Vaxxed is not anti-vaccine.
Vaxxed is not anti-vaccine. I mean, there's nothing I'm saying here that is saying abolish vaccines from the planet Earth. What I'm saying is we don't have safety testing taking place that can be trusted, and that we have a system and an amount of vaccines that's increasing at an alarming rate without any stopgaps or incentives for the pharmaceutical industry to make a better product. Can you imagine a car company, if the brakes fail, they can't be sued? Do you think they recall the whatever million Toyotas they did last year because of failing brakes if they don't have to pay for it? There's no reason to do it.
Right.
So no one's recalling a vaccine, no one's fixing a vaccine, even though we have hundreds of thousands of parents saying this vaccine injured my child. No, I want safe, effective, and healthy vaccines for everybody that wants them. But for those people that want to take their health in their hands and go a different way, or maybe just use part of the vaccine system, which is what most people that are labeled anti-vaxxers want to do. They just don't think their baby needs a sexually transmitted disease like hepatitis B being injected into their day one old baby. They just want to skip that one. But now if they do, Child Protective Services is showing up at the hospital and saying, we're going to take your baby away from you if you don't inject him with our vaccine. That is the end of freedom. That is what I'm fighting for. I am not fighting against anti-vaccines. I am fighting for the freedom of the American public to choose what is injected into their bodies and the bodies of their children. If we lose that right, we have lost all freedom together.
The 10,000 files that were delivered to Brian Hooker and Wakefield and Congressman Bill Posey by Dr. Thompson turned Thompson into a whistleblower in the classic sense, right? How has his life changed?
Well, unfortunately, I don't get a chance to talk to him. Since the moment the film came out, really since the moment he was outed online, which is sort of what took place. I mean, when you see the film, we point out that this is that Brian Hooker was called by William Thompson, who began confessing this obstruction of justice and this scientific fraud, and Andy convinced Brian to start recording the phone calls. So the body of the film and the interview with Thompson, he doesn't realize that he's being recorded. And a lot of people say, well, that's criminal. Well, first of all, Brian made sure that he was recording in a state that was a one-party state where you're allowed to record a phone call and not have the other person know. But think about it. That makes Thompson the cleanest whistleblower we've ever had, because usually what they try to say is, oh, they had an axe to grind, or they were trying to blackmail their boss into a raise, or blah, 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 blah. This is a man who is spilling his guts because of his conscience and was caught doing it in recordings on this phone. And so that's what is in this film. So once Brian Hooker and Andy said to him, look, we're coming forward with what you've said because the people need to know, and you're actually now, we believe, in grave danger because we're going to start publishing the real science and the real data you've now provided us. Instead of the manipulated data that the public saw, we're going to start doing the real science, and it's going to become obvious to the CDC that you have leaked this information out. So you should get a lawyer right now. We'll help you do that and protect yourself, which is what he did. And so he was outed online, and then he came out with his lawyer and said, we're not speaking to any more press. He said, I was unaware that I was being recorded, but I still stand by my statements. He does say he believes in vaccines and the safety of the vaccine program, but he admits everything that he does in this recorded phone calls that, ultimately we can't trust the science. We're not doing appropriate science. So how safe are they? What is the damage? What is happening? We don't really know. And so since then, we know that Thompson still works at the CDC. I do know that he's been moved out of the vaccine safety testing department where he won awards every year of his career. He's now, as I understand it, working in the HIV AIDS research department. But he's a celebrated scientist, has been his entire career, and has no reason to have come forward with this information. But that his conscience, as he says, every time I see an autistic child now, I feel guilty. I feel responsible.
Well, when he confessed, we've got about 3 minutes here. When he confessed on the internet about the MMR vaccine study that they covered up, isn't that in of itself fraud? Isn't that part a crime, and shouldn't that have caused an investigation into the safety of the MMR vaccine right then and there? Absolutely. I mean, I read papers that say, the vaccine whistleblower, the CDC whistleblower, Thompson's been debunked. Really? How do you debunk a whistleblower? I mean, I'd like to know how you do that, and I'd like to know how you do it outside of a court of law. I mean, you have someone step forward, and we haven't brought them before the Congress. You have to realize this is a government employee. He's not working for the tobacco industry. He works for the U.S. government. So for the court system he has to appear before is under congressional authority. The Oversight Committee on Government Reform, headed by Jason Chaffetz, who I've met with, needs to call Dr. William Thompson and Julie Gerberding, who was the head of the CDC at the time, and the other 4 scientists and people that were involved in this cover-up and this scientific fraud. That needs to happen. And I say to people, if this has been debunked, what exactly was debunked? Are you saying that he's a mythological creature like a unicorn, that he doesn't exist? Are you saying that he didn't really say the things that we've recorded him saying? Are you saying that the 10,000 documents that he's provided have all been manufactured and fraudulently created? None of those statements are being made. So I'm wondering what the debunk is. This is a man who's not only appeared in our film, he did do one more interview, and that was with Congressman Bill Posey in Florida, who extensively interviewed him, and it has a scientific team that has combed through the 10,000 documents. And then he stood before the Congress of the United States last year, I think it was even 2 years ago now, and said, please, I beg you, to the Oversight Committee of Government Reform, you must subpoena Dr. William Thompson. The safety of our children is at stake here. And still, that has not happened. So that's egregious. It's your government not looking out for you. And I don't think anyone's surprised when they hear it, when they watch the movie, or they see us pull up in the Vax bus. Everybody says the same thing when they find out about the story. Well, that figures. The government's lying to us about that.
We know industry is now taking over our government. The pharmaceutical industry is now the most powerful lobby in Washington. It's outspending oil and gas 2-to-1. It's buying our politicians. It's sitting in their offices and it's writing laws to make sure that we're forced to use their product. They have no liability. I mean, it's a perfect scenario for them, and it's a terrible one for the American people.
Yeah, if you ever, we'll take a break right here. If you ever question the Big Pharma lobby, it was so close. Posey was right there, Del. He was right there, and it just didn't happen. Our guest tonight, Del Bigtree. We are discussing the movie Vaxxed and its impact. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me right now on Twitter at JChurchRadio. More with Del Bigtree right after this break. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. Yes. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. And you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129 and use the promo code JCRTWS and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies.
I was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. I went from being able to work 14, 16 hours a day with no problem to where I could barely walk a block to the store. I went on to the phytonutrients about 6 months ago, and within a couple of months, my medical doctor had cut my prescriptions down in a little bit smaller dosage. The next time I went back a month later, I walked into the doctor's office and he says, "My gosh, what's happened to you? You don't even look like the same person." He looked at my legs and the swelling had gone down. My blood pressure was down. The venous stasis ulcers that I had had on my legs for the last 4 or 5 years because of the poor circulation were all healed, and I'm feeling far better.
The new challenge will allow you to receive 2 months of Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies free. And we'll even ship them to you free. Call now for details. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go online to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code TALK.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Del Bigtree, producer of the movie Vaxxed, one of the most incredible documentaries you will ever check out. It is a must-view. You can follow me right now on Twitter, at JChurchRadio. Any questions or comments for Del, just hashtag F2BQ. I'm watching those in real time to my left. Now, Del, you're going to be at the Conscious Life Expo, Film Festival, and you're going to have a special screening of the film February 12th. That's going to be an incredible audience. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready for it. I'm really, really excited about it. I mean, first of all, there's a great lineup of speakers all weekend long that, one of the great things from this is just the honor it's been to meet so many spectacular speakers and individuals that are really fighting for all levels of health and freedom around the world, and that's what I think can be found at this expo. So it's a massive lineup, and it's such an honor to be there. And people that are registered to the whole Conscious Life Expo actually can see the film for free, but you can just show up also and pay a nominal ticket fee. And we're going to be there on Sunday, so it's at the LAX Hilton Hotel. We're going to be there on Sunday. The film's going to screen at 4:30. It's exactly 90 minutes long, so we'll be done at around 6 o'clock, and then we'll have about an hour and a half Q&A afterwards. So anybody that has questions, and I invite everybody, if you work for the pharmaceuticals, if you're a doctor, you can't allow yourself to just say that the science is settled. The moment you catch yourself saying that, you've just made the least scientific statement you can make. Science is never settled. We must always keep asking questions, and that's what I love about Q&A. Is come ask the questions, especially the hard ones. I get a lot of softballs now from people that are already on our side. So anytime someone shows up that may really be questioning this, I'm not telling people to believe what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we need to be asking more specific and better questions. I'll be joined by Polly Tommy is going to be. She's my co-producer on the panel, along with Marcella Piper-Terry, a wonderful scientist. It's going to be a great event. And then if people want to sort of meet and buy a DVD of their own, take home, or have a sign a DVD, we're going to be hanging out in the Plaza Ballroom on Sunday from about 1:30 to 3 o'clock before the screening, so people can come and check us out and check in and say hi. So it's going to be a great event. It's going to be a great day. And then even after that, after the screening, I'm doing a parenting panel on safe parenting. So I have a busy day that day, but it's people should check that expo out. I mean, it's just got so much great stuff, great products, and ways to have healthier water in your house and vitamins and you name it. It's all there. So
what's amazing about the Conscious Life Expo is the people that are there to gain knowledge, right? And everybody is so cool. But I'm telling you, after this screening, there's going to be a riot, because that's the crowd that sees stuff like this, and they are the ones that are going to go out and distribute this information.
Right.
That's what they're there for.
And I do want to give a shout out to the Conscious Life Expo. This is the most controversial film, maybe one of the most controversial films ever made. We have been censored like nothing anyone could ever imagine in this country. We were kicked out of the Tribeca Film Festival, and Robert De Niro then stood up for us on the Today Show saying maybe he'd made a mistake. That made us the top trending story on Facebook around the world, so I'm not complaining about it. But then we got kicked out of Houston World Fest. We've had theaters shut down on us. And in Australia, for instance, we just opened up a month ago in Australia, and they had bomb threats at the first several theaters that were going to screen the film, so they pulled the film. And now in Australia, we have a grassroots group who have set up a system where you have to buy a ticket to the film online, you give your credit card, but you're not told where you're going to see it until an hour before. I mean, it's really crazy. These are democratic, elected nations. And now in the UK, BuzzFeed just ran a whole article against us. They've pulled the film out of the first theater it was going to screen at. They're threatening the Parliament. Andy Wakefield is heading out to the European Parliament in Brussels because they want to screen the film, and now there's an outcry from the pharmaceutical industry to shut that down. So what I'm saying is that while there's an oppression of free speech in democratically elected nations around the world against this film, Conscious Life Expo has the tenacity and the strength of character and the understanding to say this is free speech, this is a true story about a scientist and a whistleblower, and we are going to present it to the public. So they don't do that without risk. So I hope people get out and support things like this, because if you don't support those people that bring you, free speech and another point of view, then don't be surprised when there is no such thing as new information or real truth coming your way anymore. We're in a dangerous, dangerous place now. Censorship is running rampant, and we're watching the death of media and news happen as we speak. I think news is all but over in the mainstream. And what is their dying battle cry as they, shrivel into the ground? They're screaming at the rest of us are fake news. Well, I have news for you.
Yeah.
This is what you used to do. It's called real news, and if you got back to it, maybe you wouldn't be dying.
Well, I called the mayor of Houston's office, right, and told him I wanted to schedule an interview, and they were all into it. Got 2 or 3 calls back, started to set things up, and as soon as I said it was about the movie Vaxxed, you know what happened? Click.
I can only guess.
Click. Hung up on me. I was like, man, this is censorship in its purest form of its definition, right?
Well, you're pointing out, people don't know it, but that's he's the one that put pressure on the Houston World Film Festival. He said, we will pull all of your funding and ruin you if you allow that movie to play in this city. So I just want to point that out. So they clicked, they hung up on you. I mean...
An elected official, too. Hey, before the break, we were talking about the Big Pharma lobby. And certainly it's some of the biggest of the big money is Big Pharma. That's a no-joke category. How have they dealt with you, Andrew, and Thompson? I'm sure it's gotten ugly out there. I followed a bunch of the forums and was looking at some of these postings that they have an army of propaganda that goes out there. How have they dealt with you guys?
It's funny. It's funny when I look at it, because the truth is we knew. When I screened the film at a beautiful house in California to some celebrities right before we were going to be announced at the Tribeca Film Festival. So everything was about to change, and Issei Morales, the actor, said to me, he's like, Del, the movie's brilliant. It's fantastic. And, he said, but there's been other films like it. Trace Amounts is a great film, Bought, and Greater Good. How are you going to keep your film from being buried and just made irrelevant like all the other films? And I said, Issei, here's the plan. I actually think that the pharmaceutical industry, the CDC, and maybe even the government of this country hate Andy Wakefield so much, who's the director of this film, that they will go against their best interest and come out swinging at us in public. And sure enough, the moment we were announced in Tribeca, all hell came raining down on Tribeca. New York Times, Washington Post, this evil man has made a movie. I mean, they went out of their minds and made us the biggest story in the country. And then following that, they fought us every step of the way. Every theater we would open in, there would be threats on the theater. We're coming, we're bringing marches, we're going to shut the place down. Never happened. But there were theaters that crumbled under that pressure and shut us down. But you know what it did, Jimmy? What was fascinating about it is a film this small is made for $200,000. Usually is a flash in the pan. It goes into the theaters for a week. If you're really lucky, 2, you get into 5 major cities at best, and then you disappear and you hope you sell some DVDs. But because the rollout of this film was slowed down by this oppression brought on by the pharmaceutical industry, we were only able to open 1 theater at a time. We got New York for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden, oh, hey, look, we got Los Angeles, and we'd open it up. Oh, hey, we got San Francisco. And so what happened was, and they were fighting us, and sometimes the theater would be waffling back and forth for a month or 2 and finally say, okay, we'll show the film. But because of all this oppression of free speech, this film ended up being in theaters across America for almost 6 months. It never went away. It just kept staying there and staying. People kept seeing it, and we watched the audience change. We watched the audience that I described as being 3/4 filled with vaccine-injured families, filled with young people, pregnant families, new families, doctors, scientists, all because I think they said, wow, this film is still here? Maybe there's something to it, and I got to see it. And so that incredibly slow rollout that put us in, I think we've been in, several hundred cities across the nation now. We've been in Canada, all over. But because of that oppression by the pharmaceuticals, I only have one thing to thank. I have to thank the people that slowed this film down, kept it in the public eye the way they did. I have nothing but appreciation and thanks for the oppressive regime of the pharmaceutical industry, because it has done nothing but make Vaxxed arguably the most censored, the most watched, the most criticized, and one of the largest growing phenomenons the film world has ever seen.
Well, it's happened so many times, right? If you want something really to be popular or big or viewed or heard, censor it, right?
That's right.
Blacklist it.
Please.
Think about it. Happened to Elvis, right? If you know what I mean.
That literally was our release strategy.
Right.
I mean, we hoped they would make that type of mistake, and they have. So as much money as they have, and all their brilliant ad agencies that, pump these mantras out through CNN and Fox and try to make us afraid of trivial diseases will run out and get vaccinated, they weren't smart enough to know that by trying to tell people what to think and tell people what they could see, that the blood and the lifeline of America and I think our founding fathers' DNA still pumps through us. And when we're told we can't do something, when we're told we're too stupid to look at someone else's idea, we revolt, we stand up, and we say, by God, this is the United States of America, and nobody tells me what I can think, what I can see, what I can say. And they come out and they support a film like this, and that's what's made it a hit.
One of the things that has stuck with me, and it's like an ice pick in the forehead when this data is revealed in the film, but by the year 2032, 1 in 2 children born will be on the autism spectrum. And you look at these charts and you see how it's like a Richter scale, right? Just going up times 10.
Yeah.
And you see this. It's one of the most shocking things that, you can walk down the street and 1 out of 2 children that you see it could be autistic.
First of all, you probably won't see them because most of them are going to be locked away in their homes. So you're either going to be autistic or you're going to be a caretaker for this person in your house. It's the end of a standing army. It's the end of, it's the end of a Starbucks, a working Starbucks, what happens to a nation with that level of chronic neurological illness? And so just to point out to people, that stat comes from a top MIT scientist, mathematician named Stephanie Seneff, who simply charts out at the current rate of increase that we've been watching exponential. It's an exponential curve that started roughly in the 70s and 80s, where we're at 1 in 10,000 children. We're now at 1 in 45 children with autism. And if something does not stop this exponential rise, we will be at 1 in 2 children by 2032. But even in more horrifying is because it's more prevalent in boys, 80% of the boys will be being diagnosed with autism. This is a national security issue. And, all I'm doing is asking the appropriate question. I'm a journalist. I'm not here to tell you what I know. What I'm here to say is there are too many questions to not be asking. We are a civilized people. We're a people that advance because we ask questions. What I say is this: the foundation of science and the foundation of journalism are exactly the same. You must never stop asking questions. You will never have an Einstein. You will never have an evolution in science if everybody just says, no, that's the way it is. We're not looking at it any different way. We're not going to get outside the box. No more new questions allowed. And what I say about journalism, journalists are usually the first people to step up. Say if there's a death row inmate and all of a sudden there's new forensic evidence, maybe the ability to test DNA has come around, or you have a brand new witness that steps forward and gives incredible testimony that shows that this individual did not commit this crime. Journalists will rush to the scene and scream and yell up and down in every headline saying, you know, a travesty is about to be done here. We've got to reopen this case because an innocent man may go to jail. Well, what I'll tell you is this. We have a brand new witness in this vaccine discussion in Dr. William Thompson, the CDC whistleblower. And we have brand new forensic evidence in the 10,000 documents he's provided to back up his claim. Where are the journalists now stepping up and saying, hold on a second, we need to reopen the court of public opinion, we need to reopen the court of science on this because there are some dramatic questions that need to be asked now. We have a brand new witness. We have brand new evidence. Let's open this case and let's have this discussion. Where are they, Jimmy? Why is it just you and me and a couple of people on the internet and a radio station here and there? Why is it not CNN? Why is it not Fox? Why is it not MSNBC? That's what we have to be asking ourselves.
And the scary part, you know what the answer to that question is? And I hate to say it, advertising.
That's it.
That's it. It's the advertising. I don't know. I speak about this a lot, Del, and I don't know what the ratio is, but when you look at the big pharma advertising on the mass media news outlets, it's every other commercial on every other break, right? It's a constant feed. And they operate on that. And if you are going to go as a journalist and dip your toe into this water, then you're going to hear from your boss, man. The news director is going to come in and go, man, our advertisers are pulling this stuff. You need to go and report on school lunches.
That's right.
You
say that. I don't think people, if you don't work in television as I have or in the media like you do, you don't really get that. Those ads cost hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
Bill O'Reilly, Rachel Maddow, Sanjay Gupta, these people, their salary is paid by Merck, by Pfizer, by Sanofi Aventis. That's who is bringing you your news. So I say to people, just give me a little bit of skepticism, please, that a producer from the doctor's television show did not just jump ship and decide to destroy his career on a whim, that I actually have a story I'm trying to get to.
Right.
And how do I get it to you? I would have done it on the doctors if I could. I would have done it on CNN if I could. But they're never going to be able to bring it to you because right after that show would go on, the commercial would come on and they'd be selling you Viagra or Stelara or some other ridiculous product that has this long ticker tape of side effects, and you're giggling yourself stupid thinking, who buys that when you have that many horrific side effects? And I say, stop giggling. It's not funny. That is the death of news. And Thomas Jefferson said, if you lose a free press, if you lose your free media, you will lose your democracy and you will lose your freedom. And that is what is hanging in the balance right now. And I want to point out before we get out that there's a real shift. I mean, you asked what's changed in the last year. There's a lot that's changed. I think Vaxxed has brought in a new movement. There's a movement sweeping this nation that's affecting politics, it's affecting people. You can go to Vaxxed.com. You can watch the film there. You can also see we're nearing 1,000 new videos of real-life stories of people that have been and their children have been vaccine injured. And Polly, my co-producer, is starting a new group. She's interviewing the families of unvaccinated children who are the valedictorians of their class, top of the football team, top of the soccer team, no health issues. So you want to start investigating this like we are. Join us at Vaxxed.com. And you now have Donald Trump, reaching out to Bobby Kennedy Jr., a man who has fought for the safety of our water, our air, our food his entire life. Like I said, I'm a progressive liberal at heart, and this is a man who I've honored and respected, and his family and what they've dedicated to this nation. So he's been called to potentially chair a vaccine safety commission to, for the first time really in the history of this country, have a commission that is not funded by the pharmaceutical industry like all of our other health tests and health studies are, but is totally independent to look at the safety of vaccines. And what I say, for me as a journalist, you probably have this instinct. There are things that set off red flags, that something is wrong. I want people to think about this. The moment the RFK Commission was announced, the Pediatric Association, the AMA, everyone screamed and yelled and came out, oh, my God, the anti-vaxxers are going to get their way. They've got to shut this down. They need to shut this down right now. Vaccines are safe. We shouldn't be investigating it. I mean, think about that statement. Is that really what a trustable, trustworthy scientific body should be saying? Shouldn't the response have been, you know what? We welcome the RFK Commission. We know that the safety of our babies and the safety of our children is of the highest importance, and we'll believe that any level of scrutiny in science to look into this matter should be invited. And we invite RFK and his commission because we know that once he investigates this, he will come to the same conclusion that we have, that vaccines are perfectly safe. Why is that not their public statement?
Right.
Why is that not what they're saying?
Right.
You got to ask yourself that and then say, oh, my God, what's happening here?
And the other side effect of this, which is a huge one, is the amount of entitlements that would have to be budgeted, out of Washington to care for this population of our next generation, not only with health care, but daycare and taking them out of the employment arena. It would shut down the country. And this is not some kind of crazy statement. This is reality. It's a budgetary thing, too, that we need to take a look at.
It absolutely is. It is shutting down this country. It's destroying our healthcare system, and it's destroying our school system. They say that it costs $5 million to raise a child with autism. This year alone, over 100,000 children born are going to be on the autism spectrum. Just do those numbers. Put those zeros together.
Right.
We're going into trillions and trillions of dollars of debt to an illness that Dr. Thompson believes, and the CDC scientists covered up. They think that one of the major causes could be vaccines. So we could actually, fix a vaccine or change it and get rid of a multi-trillion-dollar debt that's coming in our future that's going to bankrupt the insurance system. And when I say school system, all of our, advanced preparatory classes that were available in junior high and high school when I was a kid that would cater to the future presidents and scientists of this nation are disappearing. And they're disappearing because the special needs class across the hall is growing exponentially. And in that classroom, each child is going to have 2 teachers. In the classroom with the healthy children, they get 1 teacher for 40 kids. This is what's happened in the school system. So if you think just because your child is healthy that you're not being affected by this, your child is being robbed of the education you were given simply because of the outrageous cost of this growing special needs group, and that's just the beginning. Think about it. $5 million per child. We now have, I believe it's estimated, in the range of 3.5 million autistic children and adults in this country. I mean, just sit down with a calculator and say, "Uh-oh."
Yeah, it's the military. It's the budget.
Problem.
Yeah, it's the budget for the military times 10.
Right.
Okay. We're gonna. I've yes or no answers. Okay, that's all I want from you. Okay, here we go. You ready? Rapid fire. Do you think that Congress will subpoena Dr. Thompson and investigate the CDC fraud?
Yes, because I'm an optimist.
Okay. Fair enough. Do you think that Congress will repeal the 1986 National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act and hold
Yes, I believe one day that will absolutely happen because I think the American people, as they become aware of it, are just going to say, this is unbelievable. Why, if vaccines are so safe, why do they have no liability? Yes, I believe that's something that's in our future.
Do you think that the MMR vaccine, measles, mumps, and rubella, will be available as single doses?
Whether or not that happens, I think the MMR as we know it is on its deathbed. It's going to die not just because of William Thompson, but there's also another whistleblower from Merck that's pointed out that they've committed scientific fraud inside of Merck when it comes to the mumps strain. We're seeing mumps outbreaks all over the country in people that are fully vaccinated with the MMR, so it's proved to have no efficacy. The FDA is all over it. The MMR is going to disappear. What's going to replace it and how we're going to deal with that? You know what I hope? I hope we try. There's something something else that evolves. I hope that there's something better than maybe just this idea of a vaccine we've been stuck on for 100 years. Everything else in science evolves. Maybe there's some better way to do this. Wouldn't that be awesome? Some way that doesn't involve injecting chemicals like mercury, formaldehyde, aluminum, aborted baby fetal tissue, polysorbate 80. Maybe there's a way to do this a better way. I pray that the scientists out there find that. That's what I want to see in our future.
One last question, yes or no? Do you think eventually that vaccines will be classified as pharmaceutical drugs and tested like they should be?
Yes.
You're the man, Del. You know, you, Polly, Andrew, you guys are my heroes, and keep rolling that rock uphill, and we'll see you February 10th. You're going to be on Fade to Black, by the way, at the Conscious Life Expo. I don't know if you know this yet.
I'm looking forward to it, of course. It's going to be great. Everyone come down and join us. Come for the whole weekend. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun down there. Lots of great speakers down there, world changers, but definitely come and see Vax. If you haven't seen it, I assure you, it is compelling. If you thought All the President's Men was a great movie and the Watergate cover-up, this movie is going to blow your mind.
Del Bigtree, you're the very best, my friend, and we'll see you. Man, I can't believe in less than 2 weeks. And just keep doing what you're doing, Del. We'll see you shortly. Come and hang out with Del, Andrew, Polly at Conscious Life Expo. All right? Thank you so much, Del. Be safe.
Thank you.
Del Bigtree. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Coming up after the break, Sean Stone. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Oh, fall. My favorite time of year. Cooler temperatures and, well, let's be honest, layers. Lots and lots of layers. Look, I get it. We all have that favorite hoodie. Matter of fact, I've got a few favorite hoodies. You should wear yours. Enjoy it. I do. But I stay focused on my health year-round. And for me, I take Nature's Youth RSF from nature'syouth.com. Nature's Youth RSF from nature'syouth.com. I eat right, control my portion sizes, still maintain a commitment to regular fitness, and I get plenty of rest, and I take Nature's Youth RSF. It's okay to cover up your beach body for a few months, but don't just forget about it. Nature's Youth understands exactly what it means to provide top-quality health products, and Nature's Youth customers not only improve their health, they know they're also providing their body with the right nourishment to maintain peak performance levels and fight the aging process. So layer up and get started today with Nature's Youth RSF. nature'syouth.com. Simple to use, even simpler to order. Go to nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. Thank you, Del Bigtree. Man, oh man, oh man, oh man. Vaxxed is a movie that once you see it, and you don't even have to be a parent, but once you see it and you get to the end, and the way that they compile the data and lay it out there for you, it's a mind blower. And one of the main things about the movie, about MMR and what is going on with our children, is that and it really needs to be driven home here, that it is not treated like a pharmaceutical drug, a vaccine. So they don't have to answer for or do any real clinical trials. They don't deal with placebos. They don't do any of that. They just take somebody's word that you've got a vaccine, and the next thing you know, right? Now, not saying that vaccines are bad in general, okay? That's not the point here. The point is the combination of the rapid-fire massive doses of something going into a body that just isn't ready for this yet is insane. It's insanity. And these numbers don't lie. The numbers are getting out of control. And by 2032, to have 1 in 2 of our children, it's crazy. Half of our children by 2032. It's 2017, people. It's a crazy fact. And you sit and you know that the fraud has taken place, that they have fixed all of the data, and that they have lied to us and everybody else, and nobody is holding them responsible. And there's way too much money on the table here. That's the route of this, and that's what Vaxxed is about, is letting us know about what is really going on out there. You have to see this movie, and you don't have to have children. Go and see the movie, because it is about what is going on in our world. And then, after you see the movie, then you go to your neighbors that have kids and go, dude, I looked at the numbers. We're waiting for Sean Stone to come in, so just be patient. He'll be here in a minute. 69 vaccines are required for our children. 69. And I looked at the schedule of these 69 mandated in most states vaccines. 69? It's absolutely crazy. 69 vaccines. Think about that. Unbelievable. Dell and Andrew Wakefield, what they put into this film, and to see Polly's emotion as a parent and what she has gone through. Dell has been, stripped of being a doctor, absolutely raked over everything over in Great Britain. And we touched upon this briefly tonight. We're going to get an update from Dell on this in about a month. But the film got shut down in Great Britain. They will not let up on them. And what is going to go on in Europe about this is something else altogether. They've been getting it done here in the United States, but they went over to Great Britain and they had a way to get this going, and then that got shut down too as well. So their efforts are ongoing over in Europe, and they tried to kick it off in Great Britain. And we'll have an update in about a month or so as to what is going on with the rest of the world and the viewing of this film. Do come out to Conscious Life on the weekend of February 10th and check out the special screening, because you'll get to meet Dell and Andrew and Polly. Question and answer. They're going to be there all weekend, okay? And, of course, we'll be there, too. It's a tremendous film. Tremendous. I was so moved. One of the things that I want to get to this Mayan story that is breaking right now, but that I mentioned to Dell tonight was Rita and I are sitting there, and the theater's filling up, right? It's the premiere here in Los Angeles, and everybody's there. And it's filling up, and it gets to the question and answer at the end, and I turn around, and the theater is full of families. This was a special media presentation. Okay, it was for the media, but families attended this, and this was at the very, very beginning. And the questions, as a member of the media, I asked a couple of questions and so forth. But the majority, 99% of the questions that were hitting Andrew, Polly, and Dell were from families that were showing up. And it was heartbreaking because they knew something was going on. They got the vaccines the day after things changed with their children. And that's what is amazing about this film and what it has done across the country. Absolutely amazing. Vaxxed. Just go to vaxxedthemovie.com. Vaxxedthemovie.com. Everything you need is there. All right, this story broke yesterday, and ancient. You have to see. We have some more visuals on this too as well. Ancient Mayan superhighways have been found in the Guatemala jungle. An ancient network of roads that stretched over 150 miles has been discovered in the jungle of Guatemala. And this is according to high-tech scanning carried out throughout the area. The LiDAR-derived images accurately portrayed structures and a network of 17 roads, straight as an arrow, too. They're unbelievable. Used by the Maya for travel and transporting goods, the causeways were identified in the Mirador Basin, which lies in the far northern Petition region of Guatemala, within the largest tract of virgin tropical forest remaining in Central America. Known as the Khan Kingdom, El Mirador is considered the cradle of the Mayan civilization. Prior to its abandonment in 150 AD, it was the largest city-state in the world, both in size, 833 square miles, and population. Boasted the largest known pyramid in Central America and was home to at least 1 million people. You need to go and check out these images. They're absolutely incredible. And to that end, substantial evidence has been found that everything we see and feel may in fact be part of a vast illusion. That's right, a hologram, according to a new study from a group of theoretical physicists and astrophysicists. Writing in the Journal of Physics Review Letters, scientists in Canada, Italy, and the UK came to the conclusion while studying irregularities in the cosmic microwave background, the CMB, the so-called afterglow of the Big Bang. The theory of a holographic universe was first put forward back in the 1990s and argues that everything that makes up our 3D reality, from massive stars to tiny little atoms, is actually all set in a 2D plane. This model also theorizes that gravity comes from thin, vibrating strings, which are actually holograms generated in a flatter universe, which create the illusion of having 3D depth. This model, listen to this, this model could help iron out some of those inconsistencies between Einstein's theory of gravity and quantum physics, which could be explained if the universe was, wait for it, a hologram. Now, what if, right, that we are living in a hologram? That everything that we see, touch, feel, think, that reality you get in the car and drive is all a hologram. Now, look, how many times do you hear a guest come on the show and mention the Matrix? Right? We're plugged in. We're plugged into that reality. And just what if, right? It's like one of the craziest theories out there. But it's getting closer and closer to, when I heard, along with all of you, all of these billionaires and ultra rich, uber rich out of Silicon Valley started to talk about, I think there's something to this hologram thing. We're living in a matrix type of reality. It's not real. And I'm going to dump some money into this. I want to find out because I think, and we started to hear those stories. And it's almost like it's like a Pandora's box, isn't it? It's like a fear. What if we woke up and we found out that we were just like Neo, right? In the Matrix. It's getting that close. All right. I got an update here on the petition count. Last Thursday, we sent out a petition live on the show. And we ended up posting it on all of our social media. And the petition was for Tesla's research and to have disclosure on that and free energy. That was the petition. So we sent it out there. And prior to doing so, we checked into the petition and the petitioner and wanted to make sure that everything was what it was supposed to be, that it was whitehouse.gov. We the people. It was official, and it is. And it was put out there on numerous different websites. It was shared hundreds and hundreds of times just throughout our social media. And it was on Reddit and many websites out there. So it was out there. It was live. It was active. But one day turned into the next, and the petition signing number didn't increase, and we were getting all of the reports back from everybody. Dude, I'm number 2. I'm number 2. I'm number 2. Look, I don't know how many signed it from fade to black, but I'm going to make a conservative guess here and say 1,000. Let's just pull a round number out, 1,000 through all of our social media. About 1,000. All of the other websites and Reddit and everything else that is combined, we're talking about a very, very large, wide distribution on this petition. But as of today, it still shows one signature. Now, we don't know what's going on here. I don't know if there is something crazy. This is an opportunity for all of us to kick back and go, see, the man, right, is keeping us down. I don't know what's going on. The petitioner himself has been in contact with us and is doing the same thing that everybody else is, freaking out because the petition has been out there now. It's this Thursday will be a week, and we're going to find out. But he has contacted the White House, and they haven't responded back. He wants to know why the petition isn't showing any other signatures. I can assure you that the vetting that we have done on our end and who the petitioner is, that everything is legit. Why it is not showing signatures to this point is a curiosity. It's perplexing, and I don't get it. And this is where my paranoid side starts to step up, and I have been discussing this with Rita all day long, trying to figure out what is going on. We have done our end, but to know that our audience, our friends, our social media circles on all fronts that have responded to this, and I've seen the numbers, okay? The reach that we got just on one post on our radio page was over 10,000. Just right there with 100 shares just on one, let alone Twitter. And I forget the Twitter reach that we had on that. I think Rita can do that too as well. I think that right there is getting into 100,000. So what's going on with the petition? I don't know, but it is interesting. All right. I think we have Sean here. Sean, are you here?
Yes, sir.
How are you, man? Hey,
I'm all right. I'm just settling in. I got in from Boulder, Colorado, where we do Buzzsaw now.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Because of Sean was a little late getting into us tonight, everybody, so I didn't do a proper introduction with the music and the fireworks and all of the show stuff, Sean, that goes along with it. So let's do something semi-professional. And I'll just say that this is Sean Stone, actor, film director, producer, cinematographer, screenwriter, who began his career acting in his father Oliver Stone's movies such as Wall Street, The Doors, JFK, Natural Born Killers, and Savages, just to name a few. You played the pot grower, right? Weren't you growing the weed in Savages?
I was one of their growers, yeah.
Yeah. He has since starred in and directed his first feature, Greystone Park, based on his experiences with shadowmen, demons, and ghosts in abandoned mental hospitals along the eastern seaboard. In 2012, he joined the team of investigators for TruTV hit Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura before becoming the host of Buzzsaw. Tonight, we're going to discuss his new series over at Gaia. You got a new book coming out, and also, of course, his take on the craziness of the world today, and we're going to do that Sean style. Let's kind of start here, man. I want to say congratulations on Gaia, and how is that going for you?
Gaia is a wonderful channel. I recommend people to subscribe to it if they're not familiar with the channel. Gaia.com. They may have seen Gaia on yoga mats and things like this because Gaia is known because of its originally as a yoga distributor. But it's expanded from there to have George Nuri on with Beyond Belief, his show. David Wilcock has a show. Corey Good, Regina Meredith, and we're focused on raising consciousness. Basically, I think that's the essential meaning of the Gaia channel. Gaia means Mother Earth, right? So we're trying to raise consciousness in this time period. And they have a lot of great documentary content as well, much more than Netflix has.
One of the things that I say about you a lot is, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. You look at the world with conspiracy eyes, right? You can't help that. And your interview style, I really enjoy. But what I like is your choice of guests. Now, is that your producer or is that you out there, boots on the ground? Who selects your guests?
Well, generally it's me. Occasionally, absolutely, I take recommendations from producer. We have a producer on the show, so producer or marketing will suggest people. But frankly, I go to the audience. People on Facebook, friends, they'll say you should interview this person. I look them up, and obviously I got to keep my ear to the ground and try to be aware of as many interesting personalities as I can. But I love to read, and I've watched a lot of documentaries over the years and YouTube videos, so I have a pretty good awareness of who's out there. But at the same time, I'm always open to suggestions.
Now, the last, I don't do politics, and neither do you, which is really cool. But what the both of us do is the conspiracy of politics. Nothing funner, right? Mm-hmm. Nothing more fun. The last 10 days, and I know you, I know where your head is at, but the last 10 days, if there is conspiracy in politics, do we need a better example of that? How are you doing after this first 10 days in office with Trump?
I think it's too early to know for sure. I have a lot of thoughts on what he actually represents. I would say that those who said he was the trumpet of revelation would not be far off. I think that he's basically meant to bring on certain prophetic things, and I don't think it's all positive. A lot of people from the conspiracy realm are kind of have the wool over their eyes and think he's a savior or something. And I'm sorry, if you understand the system at all, you don't. There are no such things as saviors who get ushered in to completely transform the system in a good way.
Right.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work that way.
No, it just doesn't. And this is what I find funny because you and I and our circle, our audiences, we all deal with the conspiracy of everything. Conspiracy is the new normal, and we have accepted that. But here we finally, we get a guy into the White House that truly believes in the conspiracy, right? Mm-hmm. And right. Is it too much of a good thing? Do we have to be careful what we wish for here?
Look, at the end of the day, we don't know who Trump really is. If you want to talk on a spiritual level, I would indicate that, if you're a Christian, you'd be terrified of what he really is. But on the other hand, I think he's let's call him a necessary beast. And I don't have a problem, with that. I think that there are things that have to come into being that, whatever he's meant to do. When it comes to conspiracy angle, we get excited. We're like, oh, he's talked about 9/11 in the past. He's talked about vaccines. Is he actually going to implement anything on that front? Or, is he still driven by this desire to really create conflict, with, China, for example, or to build a wall and waste huge amounts of money on the most insane venture since the Soviets built a wall in Germany.
Right.
Things like this. So I don't know what, at the end of the day, what we have yet. I mean, I don't want to weigh in after the first week. How can you? But
you
we're
can't.
living in very interesting times.
I know you can't ask for more action. It's just been rapid fire. But I'll say this, and I want to talk more about this after the break. I want to get your thoughts on this. But if you are going to have somebody in there to deal with disclosure and what's going on at Area 51 and the questions about, E.T. and other conspiracy theories out there, he's our guy, right? He would be the guy just for that. Do you think that, if he gets exposed, as he probably already has on the E.T. question, and I'm sure that, he's seen the secret files, do you think he's the guy to bring that forward?
I mean, again, you would hope so. I just don't know that that's necessarily on the overall agenda. I don't know that disclosure is ever meant to be coming from our government. I think that our government is, in my book, New World Order, we talk about the Anglo-American Empire that calls itself the New World Order. And the Anglo-American agenda is to utilize the U.S. Financial power to basically, as an engine of war. It's a war machine. That's what it does. It creates conflict and stirs conflict globally, and it's usually to control resources for, increasingly fewer corporations that have more and more consolidation and power. So to think that he's going to ultimately buck that trend and, follow the notion of, America first in a positive way, I would be surprised. Because, America first can be a great thing if you're actually talking about respecting sovereignty of nations and respecting other nations and, within their realms. But if he means it in a fascist light and, given some of the decrees he's already issued, it makes you wonder, is this, basically, 70 years later, World War II was fought, about 70 years ago now?
Right.
It just finished about 75 years ago. So, is that what we're looking at? Because you look historically, America's had four turnings. This is the fourth one, sorry. The first one was the American Revolution, 70 to 80 year time periods. So it goes then Civil War, then it goes World War II, and here we are in the middle of the next one. And, we might be living through the next serious conflict.
Well, it never really ended, if you think about it, from 1991. Let's take a break right here. Sean Stone, excuse me. Sean Stone is our guest. And you know what's funny, Sean, is I get to ask you the questions. We'll be right back. More with Sean Stone right after this. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
You've probably heard about all the great benefits of goat milk soap, but did you know some companies take shortcuts? At Old New England Soap, we make our organic goat's milk soap using 36% goat's milk. That's 17% more than most others. Our bars are larger, so they last longer, producing lots of lather packed with vitamins. And our soap is a natural moisturizer that smooths dry and damaged skin. Order online at oldnesoap.com. That's oldnesoap.com. You've tried the rest. Now try the best. oldnesoap.com.
Water-based soaps on supermarket shelves use harsh chemical acids to break down dead skin cells. And that's just not good for you. At Old New England Soap, our soaps are made without chemical ingredients, contain no alcohol or petroleum products, and use 85% organic materials and carry the USDA's organic certification. Try some today. Go to oldnesoap.com. That's oldnesoap.com. oldnesoap.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on the smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
If you have sciatica, then you know all about the crippling pain that travels from your lower back down your leg when a spasm occurs. It's brutal. In fact, it's enough to take your breath away. Dr. Zhang's Sciatica Nerve Cream helps relieve persistent, shooting pains associated with the sciatic nerve in the lower back and legs. This natural, homeopathic cream contains the most potent ingredients to soothe even the most excruciating pain associated with sciatica. Stop the pain now. Ask for Dr. Zhang's Sciatica Nerve Cream at your local health food store or go online to trasknutrition.com.
Would you like relief from muscle pain, headaches, and discomfort to sleep better, have more energy during the day, and just feel naturally amazing? Fibromalic can help. Its blend of malic acid and magnesium can provide pain relief and comfort for those who experience fibromyalgia. It helps your body absorb more oxygen, and it works quickly for a significant reduction in pain within 48 hours, all without a prescription. Ask for Fibromalic at health and vitamin shops or shop fibromalic.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow Sean at Watching Sean. Sean, where'd you get that Twitter handle from?
Watching the Hawks, man. It's my show on RT.
We're calling this tonight the Hawk Watcher, actually. So there you go. You have done so many interviews on UFOs and disclosure, and they're great. But I have to ask you, have you ever seen anything in the sky?
Oh, sure.
What have you seen?
A few things in the sky. And not just talking about chemtrails.
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, let's see. Basically, I remember one night in Iran, actually, was fun. We were driving into the desert in Iran, and I was in the front seat with the driver, and all of a sudden something flies over our heads. And it wasn't, like, very close to our heads. I must say it was pretty high in the sky, but it was moving very quickly. And far faster than you see a plane move, right? Just swept through, and he and I looked at each other and kind of like just checked, like, did you see that? Okay, I didn't see it by myself. Okay, good. Just checking, making sure. Got it. We saw something.
What was that?
It wasn't like a jet or a plane. It didn't move that way. It just blazed through.
Was it during the day?
To be a star, like a shooting star, was too low for that. So that kind of thing. I mean, I saw the same thing when I was driving in L.A. when I actually was even lower. It was a really bizarre craft. It was almost, I would say, like a few thousand feet in the air, and just flew, very fast right over the road at like 2 a.m. And again, one of those things is like, it doesn't look like a typical plane or a jet fighter. So, I say UFO, but pilots see UFOs all the time. And so they move in different. They can shift 90-degree shifts or 180-degree turns, rapidly. People see those all the time, but the question obviously is: are we talking alien? Or are we talking like deep space program, advanced government technology?
Well, and this is what's great, because I'm asking you the questions that you would normally ask a guest at this moment, right? So, and you're kind of answering it yourself because you're so used to conducting the interview. But now I'm going to spin it around on you. What did you think you were seeing now that you've had a little bit of time and to contemplate? Was it us or them?
Yeah, but I mean, there's no way of me knowing. It's not like I could tell you I had an alien encounter or something that was like a loss of time, for example. Those can be quite frightening, I've heard.
Right. Right.
You actually lose time, and 20 minutes have gone by. Like, what happened? No, I never experienced that. So again, it really could be either way. And by the way, I've seen probably 3 or 4 more incidents where you're watching something in the sky, looks like a plane, and then next thing you know, it kind of vanishes, and you're not sure, did it go beyond the vanishing point? Did it just pass, or did it really just vanish before my eyes? You question yourself, right? And I think it's normal. You can't, we don't know for sure what we're looking at when it comes to craft. If I told you I saw an alien, then I would say, yeah, sure, it looked like an alien.
Right.
But I haven't seen that, so I can't tell you what was inside the craft.
Why do you think that conspiracy has become the new normal? You and I have talked about this in the past, both privately and on the air, but after what we've just gone through in 2016 with all of this fake news and the media and obviously the world is not what it seems, but the world now is experiencing what you and I have been dealing with, right, for so long. Why is it now that conspiracy is the new normal and like it's okay?
Is it? Maybe it's because Trump said, CNN is fake news. So once the president acknowledges that, the mainstream media is fake news, I think that's a good it's a go sign for everybody else to unleash and say, wait a minute. I always knew there was something wrong with you. On the other hand, they have the backlash. Obviously, those who hate Trump will say, now I have to only watch CNN, as my go-to source. But, I'm being facetious. But to a degree, it's true. I mean, I hope everyone realizes conspiracy is true, but I don't know that. I tend to think of our reality very much in a sort of subjective sense, where the feedback that we get is oftentimes reflective of where our mind is and, what we're dealing with in terms of the reality I experience, and the people I attract into my reality probably are more awake people. They probably question things, and that's, my experience. And I think if you polled the entire population when it comes to certain events like JFK assassination or UFOs, you'll probably get more than 50% who believe in conspiracies on that front, but that actually think about conspiracy on a daily basis, who actually read the news critically or critically think about events. I don't know that the population necessarily does. In America, at least. I think in Europe, more so. But here, what's your evidence that we do believe in conspiracy more than ever?
What, my evidence?
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're going to interview me. Oh, I see how you want to do this. I see how you want to do this. My evidence, when I start to when I look at different news feeds, and it doesn't matter which country that you choose, and you see that nobody can report the same thing when they're supposed to be reporting facts. and the facts are not consistent. Well, now you have a narrative that is driven for their own agendas, and you see the ebb and flow of emotions with the masses in general, and you start to see that it is George Orwell's 1984, right? That the Ministry of Truth is indeed a lie, and we don't know what to believe anymore. There cannot be a bigger conspiracy than that. If the media that we are fed, the information that we are fed, is quite simply not true, then everything is a lie, right? And I don't know where else to take it than that.
If there weren't so many people still watching it, I would tell you yes, but they still watch it, and it drives me crazy.
I know. I know.
RT is a pretty good news network, I would say. And I think the fact that that the Washington Post and the Economist are trying to smear us is actually a great praise. And the New York Times is trying to, all these mainstream networks are now saying, that RT is propaganda, and that the CIA report to Trump, it was all about RT and all this. It's like, great, this is wonderful. I'm glad we're on their watch list. Do American people know RT? Mostly no. Most people I talk to and I say RT, they have no idea what I'm talking about.
Well,
so I don't know, man. I mean, what can I tell you? I guess people are looking to some conspiracies online. You get YouTube videos, you get a few million hits occasionally with Illuminati stuff. You get you get the Christian take on the Illuminati and Satanism. You get like the alt-right, which is like fanatical about immigrants and Muslims, and then you get the liberals who are focusing more on war and the destructive power of the military-industrial complex. So everyone's kind of branched off into their own personal pet peeves. But on the whole, do I see an overall awakening of people to more conscious existence and more critical thinking? Not really.
Let's talk about RT for a second. Russia Today. You've got a program. I guess you could say that you work for Russia Today, but the legend, the urban legend behind RT is that it is a Putin propaganda machine, that it is a government-funded media outlet. And do they ever tell you what to report on, or do they tell you what not to do?
Well, first and foremost, I'm not a producer on the show, so it's not ultimately my call as far as what stories we cover. I'm a commentator and a co-host. As far as there is no they. There is a bureaucracy and a hierarchy, just like every news network has. And there is government financing. And if anyone actually traveled outside of this country, they might have been to Europe, and they might have seen things like BBC or like French, the French version of Arte, for example, but other French news channels or German news channels or Spanish news channels, and know that in Europe, governments always finance news networks. And just like we have PBS, which at one point was public broadcasting, and I don't know, may still exist in some universe. But that's the problem again. If people don't travel, if people don't, raise their consciousness and shift stations and actually start to question what they believe is their truth and their reality, then there is no awakening to the reality of conspiracy, because guess what? Conspiracy is life, and if you have the power and the money to do so, you would conspire too. Probably, unless you're a really good person. But hey, how many there are out there?
Okay, so do you feel? I think you answered the question. I think you danced a little bit. Do you feel that Hawk is a propaganda device, a Putin part of the Putin machine?
Well, in terms of Putin, I have no idea, because at the end of the day, I have never talked to Putin, never gotten any kind of access to the Russian government in that capacity. And just like every news channel, there's an editor and in chief, and there's basically producers, and they obviously you consult on which stories to cover. But when it comes to angles and what you want to talk about, I've never been talked to. None of our co-hosts have been talked to. And if you watch the channel, I mean, most of the people on there are basically like 30-something millennials,
right,
who have their own opinions. And as far as I've seen, they go both ways on politics and and most of the news that you see out there. And when it comes to Russia, do we cover Russia? No. But are any of us Russians? And is RT America supposed to be at Russia? No. So why would we talk about Russia internal politics that we know nothing about?
Would you interview Putin if you could?
I don't have to. My dad's interviewing him. He's doing a documentary on him.
Okay, but would you?
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely, I would interview him. I'd have to obviously, study up on, the criticisms of him, and of course, you'd pose both. You pose questions, and you follow your gut, and you make as honest portrayal as you can. But again, my dad's doing a documentary, so I'll be very curious to watch that.
Yeah, when's it coming out?
I don't know yet.
Are you saying that your dad? We're talking about Oliver Stone, everybody, in case you don't know. Are you saying that your dad Oliver got to sit down with Putin and actually interview him for this documentary?
Oh yeah, multiple times, many hours.
Oh man. Okay, I'm not going to go in that direction, but I would love to know how that went and what's your dad's angle on it, and what's the reason for the documentary. You have to have a reason for it, but we'll save that for another show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, remember, he's done documentaries on Castro multiple times.
Right.
Comandante was a feature, and then Looking for Fidel, and
which was great.
As well.
Yeah, that was great.
And then he did a documentary on the Israel-Palestine conflict back in 2002. We were trying to focus on Arafat at the time. We went there to meet Arafat, but the Arafat meeting really never came about because there was a big conflict, and Israel invaded the West Bank, and we had to get out of there. So we just interviewed a bunch of the prime ministers like Shimon Peres and Ehud Barak and Netanyahu. So it's a good documentary, really good, actually. It's called Persona non grata.
I want to. Do you think that the family will shift at some point, and your dad will start consulting with you?
On what?
On everything, because you with Buzzsaw and everything that you have done, you're getting your own information, and I actually want to discuss that in just a second. But do you think that it'll come to the point where your dad's going to call you and go, "Okay, Sean, I need to know what's going on here"?
How do you know he doesn't?
What's that?
How do you know he doesn't?
Has he?
But I'll tell you one thing. I mean, it's a misconception to think my dad is just a conspiracy theorist or something. I mean, he's actually not far from it, but I would say much more balanced in his perspective. I mean, I think the Untold History series is probably the best insight into the way that he views the world, views politics, views history. I think anyone who wants to really understand his perspective on that needs to watch that series.
And so what have you learned? And I get this question all the time, Sean, so I just want to throw this directly back at you. What have you learned with all of your interviews on so many broad subjects? What's the one thing where you've backed off and went, you know what? Okay, I'm convinced of this.
What do you mean? Which conspiracy theory am I convinced of? Or?
Well, it could be anything, because you deal with everything. You deal with the Fed. You deal with Illuminati, the cabal, UFOs, paranormal, ghosts. You touched upon everything. Yeah. But you are trying to extract information from your guest. And what's that one piece of information that you learned where you just backed up and went, okay, I'm convinced of this?
Well, I would say I believe in all of it, but I don't know anything.
I know. Isn't that's the paradox, right?
I would say exactly. I mean, look, going back to what I was saying earlier, I believe the mind is very much reflected. How do you say the mind is reflected through the reality, or to say the reality reflects our mind, right? So, what is true? What is truth in a according to quantum physics, a subjective universe where our consciousness, our perception actually shapes things and shifts things. I mean, Frank, last year we talked about the Mandela Effect, or I could call it the Mandala Effect, really, where it's people are having memories shifts, or memories of things that previously they were convinced were true, it happened, and then the facts or the history says it was a different, right? Whether it was Mandela's death, people had memories of him dying, I think, during the apartheid era, or people misremembering Snow White as the mirror instead of the magic mirror on the wall. So all these types of things that were, examples to say maybe, I don't know that any of those were actually true cases of a time shift. I think people tend to misremember things in general. You and I have a conversation. I might want to tell someone what you said, and I can't necessarily remember exactly the words you used, so I paraphrase or create new words. It happens all the time. It's a problem of memory. But the point being that it's a reflection of the fact that our consciousness is shaping the world that we live in. The reality that we perceive is the reality of our unconscious mind, perhaps projecting. So all these things that I deal with, I believe, to an extent, are true, are real. I think that we live in a haunted world that's full of multiple dimensions of reality, maybe even multiple timelines. Everything you can imagine is real. To what degree of truth? Well, that's the question. But there's only a few facts in reality, very few. Most of it is subjective, most of it is interpretive.
Well, when we're talking about things like the Mandela Effect, even my mind, I don't know if it's polluted, if my memory is incorrect, but there are certain things that I have repeated throughout my life as fact, right? Mm-hmm. It was an experience, and then I find out that my memory isn't what I have been repeating over all of these years. I'm not going to get into specifics here, but it makes me question, too, what is going on with something like the Mandela Effect. Is it possible that we are getting our timelines and our history changed right in front of us? Because either that or my memory is just, shot to hell. Have you had that very same thing with the Mandela Effect where you said, wait a minute, I'm a smart guy. I don't think my memory is faulty here, but that is not the way that I remember it. Do you have a Mandela Effect?
The only thing I could most of the Mandela Effect stories or anecdotes I didn't find to be convincing or accurate. The only one that really got me was magic mirror on the wall.
Yeah.
I remembered mirror on the wall. And I was like, wait a minute, but why did I remember mirror? Was it because that was the legend or the way people told the story? Or why did I think mirror when she says magic mirror? That was the one that got me.
Yeah.
The point is, I think that the point of the Mandela Effect, I call it the mandala, like the Tibetan mandalas, right? It's like a symbolic it's a symbolic view of reality that's meant to, again, make us confront our consciousness and the fact that we are perceiving a reality, and our perception shifts the reality. Our emotional state affects how much we remember of a conversation or where our focus is in the course of a conversation, right? And I think the point of this whole effect is to say reality was never about facts. It was never about proving, intellectually, logically, what happened, who's right, who's wrong, what occurred in the past. It's actually about us learning to flow with the energy of the planet, with the world, with the reality of the situation, being present, learning to let go of the past, because oftentimes we're traumatized by our past. We are hooked in by our past. We are essentially, you would say, we are reliving the past. We are basically ghosts. We think there are ghosts haunting us, but we are the ghosts. We keep reliving actions, repeating behaviors and patterns. And in order to get past that, you have to, at some point, learn to let go of the past, make peace with it. Basically, not just forget, but forgive. And eventually things melt away because they lose their charge. They lose their importance, right, where we turn our attention to. And that's where I think we have to go. Right now we're very charged by the bipolarity of the political process. And that's hooking us deeper into this material reality at a point when we need to start detaching from it, being at ease, just understanding that the universe has a purpose and there's a plan that's already has its course. All we can do is flow with that and ultimately find our place within this elaborate mandala of ever-shifting colors and blurry images because, there is no fixed reality.
Do you think that we're living in a holographic universe, that we're living in a 2D that vibrates, string theory, and it appears to be 3D and real, but it is indeed not that, and we are living in a giant hologram?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't exactly figured out the nature of that hologram as far as, is there a projector, a source of the light that projects? I mean, obviously we know stars are sources of that projection, because light is what how do you say, everything is created from, vibration and light, and the frequency of the vibration. We know that our physical body is nothing as far as the material nature of it. We're empty space, right? We know that we're subatomic particles that are vibrating at a certain rate that we look physical.
Right.
If you broke us down, we'd be smaller than the seed of an apple.
Right.
So what does that mean about, how empty we really are, and how empty this entire material reality is? And it's a great comprehension. It's like emptiness. Everything is light. Everything is light shows and tricks. But we look at the shadows and we don't ask, what is the source of the light that casts them?
Well, if that is indeed the case, then do you fear death?
No. Why would you fear death? I mean, death is the most natural thing aside from being born. You know that, as soon as you're born, you're going to die. So I think of it as very much a passing. I would say, there is no death. It's passing over. And I certainly believe that there's different forms of reincarnation, not just in this physical plane, but in other planes.
Right.
Whether it's different dimensions or different planets. But anyone who has memories, I think, of past lives or feels themselves to be an old soul, comes to realize, well, this isn't it. My soul didn't just occur when my father's semen met the egg of my mother. That's not where the soul begins.
Before I let you go, it's funny that speaking of the Mandela Effect, I knew that this question would come in, so I'm just going to hit you with it. How many people were in JFK's limousine?
6.
Are you sure?
Well, there were at least 6, because I know that there was Connolly, who got hit, his wife, there was Jackie, there was John, and then there was the driver, and then there was probably a guy next to the driver, so at least 6.
Right. And I know that you've heard the same things. What do you make with so many people out there, me being one, right? Remembering just 4 in the limousine.
Well, I would ask you this: was John Connolly's wife driving it?
Well,
like math doesn't add up. How do you only get 4?
Right.
Who was driving the car?
Right.
Where was Connolly?
Right.
Connolly was sitting in front of Kennedy. Didn't you see JFK the movie? The magic bullet hit Kennedy and Connolly. How is that possible?
Right.
If there's only 4 people in the movie.
But that was your dad helped us with that later when he altered the timeline. Okay, so.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah. Well, what I mean is, what I remember growing up, and I had somebody, and I had forgot about JFK, the movie. And somebody had called up and onto the show and said, well, how many people were there? I said, well, there was 4. There was Jackie, and John Connolly was in the front, sitting next to the Secret Service guy. I had forgotten about or didn't remember Connolly's wife and the Secret Service guy in the front seat. I always thought that Connolly was sitting next to the driver. That's my memory, right, for 50 years. And I mean, I had my mind blown on the air. I was like, wow, okay, so there was 6. Well, I got hundreds, if not thousands, of emails from people saying they remembered 4, that I shouldn't feel strange about this. And I just thought that was kind of trippy. But
don't you realize that what we remember is what we put our attention and focus to? So your attention and focus were on those 4, Connolly, Kennedy's wife, obviously Jackie, and the driver. Your consciousness was only focused on those 4.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I saw the Zapruder film. I went through, because of JFK, I went and watched the Zapruder film probably, and I'm not exaggerating, a couple of 100 times in 24 hours, literally stopping it frame for frame. And I don't know how I came away from doing that still remembering 4. But I did, and it just messed with me. So is it faulty memory? I don't know. But it's just what happened to me, and it really messed with me for a while.
Yeah.
So you're going to be at Conscious Life. What are you going to be speaking about this time around?
I have no idea. Whatever. You know what? The good thing about these kind of conferences, I love engagements with an audience. I love people asking questions. I don't really have anything necessarily at the moment that I'm going to say. Who knows? Maybe in 2 weeks, Trump will piss me off to the point I'll have to say something, or I'll be like, hey, look, he did this. This is great. maybe that's all I'll be discussing. You got to see where we are in 2 weeks, frankly, right? You don't know. I can't predict that. So all I can say is that I would be very open to guests coming who have questions or want to have conversation. I think that's much more stimulating and reflecting what the audience is thinking than just coming with my sermon.
Yeah. Well, last year, I'll just say this. I introduced you last year, and the room was packed. And to see the enthusiasm and the questions and the way that entire presentation went, that it was most excellent. But it's really cool to see who comes to ask you questions. You're drawing in a new generation of an audience and of truth seekers. But what comes with that is responsibility too, as well, because they're hanging on your every word. Do you feel that pressure that you need to say the right things and you need to watch what you say, because when you have a packed room like that, they're on their edge of their seats. Do you feel that responsibility?
Well, now I do. You just informed me that I have to be aware of every word I say. No, I like to joke around. Frankly, I don't know any better than anyone else. I follow my intuition. Maybe I read certain things. I've read and I studied, but it doesn't mean I know. I don't come as a prophet. I'm just trying to speak, my truth, and I hope that it can hopefully. I hope they can impact some people and make them reflect and find their voice too. Because to me, it's not about again, I'm not like this whole notion of like the Messiah complex of certain people in this business who really just want to hear their own voice and love being the center of attention and soaking up the energy of their fans and acolytes. It's to me, it's like, how do we get people to think critically for themselves, to come out with their own truth and their own experiences? Because the people of this planet, all together, combined as a totality, we could actually, if we all started to sort of express ourselves more and use our platforms, and whether it just be social media is a platform, it's a tremendous platform, we could figure out what's actually going on here. If everyone was speaking their truth, right, we could actually know what was going on in this place.
So you're saying that you're actually you're coming clean, that you're not the smart guy in the room. That's what you're saying.
Whatever smart means, shoot, I don't know. Whatever smart means to you. Smart for one person can, as far as I know, I've met some very intellectual people that are completely emotionally and spiritually dead. So it's not the best thing necessarily to be a smart person in the room. It can also be a smart ass and completely obnoxious. So,
well, you can be both. You can be both.
I don't know. We can take an IQ test beforehand and see who's got the highest IQ, and even if that's a good parameter, I'm not sure I wouldn't necessarily say that's for sure. So
you're in court. You're at the Supreme Court, and you have an opportunity to present the ultimate evidence of a conspiracy. Okay? And you have one shot at it. What is the evidence that you push across the table and say, here it is? What is that one piece of evidence?
For any conspiracy?
You need to prove it. See, and this is the thing, and I'm going to give you a second to think about this, because when it comes to certain things like 9/11 or JFK or the Gulf of Tonkin or Operation Mockingbird, right? Different examples of conspiracies out there. There is all of that. But if you have one shot, Sean, and you know conspiracy, what is that piece of evidence that you push across the table and say, here's your proof?
Thank you for your argument to the Supreme Court. You got to go into this issue of sovereignty in America and how, what was it, the 14th Amendment that basically enslaved all citizens of this country. I think you have to get a really good legal team together, and you make the most devastating point about how every citizen in the United States is actually owned by the corporation of the United States. I mean, that would be the most interesting case to argue for the Supreme Court. The rest, lack of evidence, lack of witnesses, things like that. But there you can actually go somewhere because it's all in the legal documentation of the U.S.
Well, if that's the case, would you become sovereign?
I don't know that I want to.
Right?
I'm not saying that I want to. But I think it's an important point intellectually and spiritually for humans to understand, especially Americans to understand.
Absolutely. Sean, I want to thank you for all that you do, man. And tell me what's coming up next on Buzzsaw. Who's your next guest?
I don't know. It's an air date thing. So we've just finished the season, which is 13 episodes, and that'll be coming. That's already out on Gaia right now. People can go watch those 13 episodes. We'll start a second season pretty soon, so I'm not sure who's going to be first. In the meantime, people should watch Century of War, my documentary. It's on YouTube in 4 parts, or they can watch it as a whole on RT.com. They can find it. Century of War.
Yeah, and let's talk about that for a second before I let you go. What is Century of War, and what does it deal with?
Century of War is a documentary that I put together last year, and frankly, Trump's inauguration speech, drew heavily upon the concepts and themes of it, because it's about how America has been collapsed economically by a path of deindustrialization and decaying infrastructure on the home front. Meanwhile, we have this commitment to foreign wars and a military-industrial complex, which is bloated and obscene, loses money all the time, $6 trillion apparently, according to the Pentagon.
Right.
That's what they've admitted losing. So the point is that the Century of War focuses on this sort of, the collapsing the decline of the middle class. It's being squeezed out, and real wages being replaced by debt, and how basically we've gotten to this position, but also looking forward to the future as far as some innovations and things that government could make investments in, like high-speed rail systems, and new energy technologies like nuclear thorium fission, hot fusion, and also cold fusion. And then, on the economic front, trying to localize economics more and more. Why are we constantly committed to this idea of the corporations on Wall Street that are increasingly globalized and bloated, obviously sucking more and more wealth out of our hands, and we're not investing in our local communities, the small and middle class shops, the local agribusiness, local growers, the home market. That's the focus. That's the emphasis of the documentary.
Why
really make America great again? But this is how to make America great again.
Well, why is it that we know as citizens we can see the cyclical thing of war and profiteering, big banks, international banks that are playing both sides of these conflicts and profiting off of that, but we choose as citizens to keep our head in the sand and allow this to continue? I mean, we have the power to stop this. Why do we allow this cyclical war profiteering petrodollar economy to continue when we see our own communities suffer? Why do we allow it to continue?
I think across the board, there's a sense of powerlessness when you have these corporations that are increasingly dominant and powerful and have so much ownership, and they buy the politicians, right? And you have a globalized world that's increasingly, it does cater to our needs to a large extent. I mean, we do, there are a lot of things to be said for overall, progress and growth. But when it comes to the standard of living of the middle class and the poor, this hasn't gotten better. And yet, people don't know what to do in a sense. I think there's been a lack of leadership for the most part. Obviously from the politicians. We haven't seen those politicians with visions for America. When people heard Trump, they did respond to that. Now, again, I'm waiting to see if he actually delivers on anything he said, or in what way, because you can go the Hitler way, which is work to eat. that's the Hitler path. Or you can go FDR and invest in, your infrastructure and electrification of the country and new energies and things like this. But yeah, I mean, on the whole, I just think we've kind of, A, we don't have leadership, and B, we don't know how to respond. It's hard, it's hard in the world that we live in. Most people are focusing on eating and, trying to make money to eat and catch their next reality TV show and, play on their apps, because it's like we're being satiated on the technological front through virtual realms, right? But when it comes to the physical realm, the cleanliness of the country, the investment in future productivity, things like this, building markets in the middle of the country, not just in the coasts. I think that's where, people are being satiated by the IT, internet technology advances, and also dumbed down to a certain extent regarding what to expect from their situation. We don't have the knowledge of history of how we became this great power. It required investment from the government as well.
Well,
the private citizens.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if you're aware, but George Orwell's 1984 has been the #1 bestseller now for a week, right? I mean, just out of nowhere. And just further down the list, not far, like number 8 is Huxley's A Brave New World. And does that address what you had said at the beginning of the show tonight, which is we are starting to wake up and we're starting to realize and we're starting to see these things happen, and to see A Brave New World in 1984 shoot up on the best #1, right? Is it because they're going back to check up on what they remembered from those novels because they are coming true today? Or is it because they were told about it and they want to go and see what is going on around us and confirm it through 1984 in A Brave New World?
Either way, whatever the motivation is.
Yeah.
Kudos to anyone who's reading it and recognizing the games and the tricks and the tools that the elite and the government use to keep us blind. That's exactly it. Thank you so much, Sean, man. We'll see you at the Conscious Life Expo. It's February 10th. I can't believe it. Another year has gone by. But we'll see you, and we'll get you over on Fade to Black Live Friday night. But also, I'll do another grand introduction for you on the weekend. Sweet. Sounds good, Jimmy.
All right, man. I'll talk to you. Thank you so much, Sean.
Yeah, thank you.
You got it. Sean Stone, everybody. Thank you so much, Sean. Watching Sean on Twitter. You can follow Sean and, of course, come and hang out with all of us over at the Conscious Life Expo, February 10th. Thank you so much, Sean. I'm going to take a quick break right here. What a night on Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Del Bigtree, Sean Stone, all in one night. I'll be right back.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies.
I had gout in both my knees, and it's gone.
Well, I'm pretty stupid. I should have ordered it 15 years ago. Best thing I ever got in my... It's the most effective product that I've ever bought in my life.
He had eczema on his hand, and it cracked for years. He did anything from doctor, every cream, everything. And 3 months on the veggies and fruit, it was gone.
They're just awesome. They keep asking me, what am I doing? I told them what I did with my cholesterol. I had the blood test, right? And it went down 100 points. 262, now it's 162. Everything is just perfect.
Call now to find out how to get your free month's supply of Balance of Nature. Call 800-2468-751. That's 800-2468-751. Call now, 800-2468-751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com.
Use promo code TSL.
Would odors, mold, and mildew describe your basement or crawl space? It doesn't have to be that way. Transform them into a fresh, healthy, usable one with the technologically advanced Wave Moisture Control Units. The computerized operation maximizes moisture control and also expels harmful radon, combustion gases, and numerous other pollutants. Dehumidifiers are old technology that do nothing for air quality and waste energy. Wave units are intelligent, self-monitoring, do not need maintenance, and will save you hundreds in electricity. Wave units are still running effectively over 15 years. They've been tested and installed in public and military housing and by property managers nationwide. Buy a unit now, and if your home is not fresher and drier, you can return it for a full refund for up to 12 months. What have you got to lose? Call now. 1-888-618-WAVE. 1-888-618-WAVE. Or visit mydryhome.com. That's mydryhome.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Teppy.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRAradio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. Monday night, back in the chair. Great show tonight. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is Jimmy at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Now, this is what is interesting about tonight's show, if you think about it. The conspiracy of everything, right? Conspiracy is the new normal. And let's talk about that for a second, because Del Bigtree and Vaxxed and the CDC and that conspiracy doesn't really get much bigger than that. And its implications onto the future and our future generations are tremendous. The tax that is not the tax, but the tax it is going to implement onto the system of our children and everything that is involved with that. If you think we are in debt right now, think about $5 million per child. Think about that and start to do the math. And Dell is exactly right. And start adding those zeros up. Break out your calculator and start to think about that. It is tremendous. It far surpasses anything that we are dealing with right now, right? And the conspiracy that is involved with that and the CDC and the fraud that is in play here, right? And we have the opportunity right now in front of us to do the research, do the testing, and get all of that fixed, right? There's that. And then with Sean and the conspiracy of everything, that is exactly what we're dealing with here. And this is what got interesting with Sean and that conversation, because I did the press release about the holographic universe. And the fact that the implications that play out here with Einstein's theory of gravity and how he presented that and how everything is on a 2D plane, everything, atoms on strings, and those vibrate and cause the illusion of a 3D universe and a 3D world, the very 3D world that you are experiencing right now and look around and experience. And that's exactly what Sean was talking about. And the possibility of all of that being real. A holographic world. The Mandela Effect. That is pretty trippy. And when I say Pandora's box and that being possible, right? If that is it and that box gets open and the one thing that we fear, right, that none of this is real, right? That's pretty nutty and that's pretty crazy. And it goes right back to and correlates with Rappaport's matrix theory. It's, now it's all fun to read about it, science fiction novel, maybe a really good movie, and we can sit and have fun with the conversation, what if? But what if? What if this actually starts to play out? If you think about the conversations you had when you were 15, 14 years old, 15 years old, 16 years old with your friends, and you're sitting around talking, man, what if, the universe is in a cell in my thumbnail, man, and there's another universe there, dude, and those are fun conversations. But if this stuff starts to play out as a scientific reality, and that indeed that we are living on a 2D plane that vibrates into 3D, and that is just an illusion, and this comes to play and comes to pass, that's pretty frightening. That's pretty frightening. I have had a pretty good experience on this timeline. All right, I've done everything that I wanted to set out and do in my life. I wanted to be an artist. I was an artist for a while. I wanted to play guitar. I wanted to do the rock star thing. I did that. I wanted to produce bands. I did that. I wanted to do radio. I did. I'm doing that. I wanted to do present my stuff out there for the world on television, and I've done that, and I am doing that. So I've had the run that I've wanted to do. But what if it was all just an illusion? We get to the other side and we find out that we are just energy in the electric universe, just shooting out there. How crazy would that be? And we don't know. It's the ultimate question, isn't it? There's two ultimate questions that we have. Where do we go when we die? What happens? And are we alone in the universe? And both of those could be the exact same answer. And we're not going to know. Isn't that interesting? The holographic universe. And now there's some other stuff that I want to talk about that everything ties in together. We're at the end of the show, so I want to get this stuff in. When we look at Mars, the Mars mission, and Elon Musk, too, I'm going to talk about here in just a second, and what is going on with the private space programs, our current space programs with NASA, the secret space program, what is going on not only on the moon, but on Mars, returning to the moon, allegedly, and occupying Mars, allegedly, because we're probably already there, right? Well, NASA released photographs today of the rover. The wheels on Curiosity have taken such a beating from the tough conditions on the red planet, allegedly. And you look at these new images of Curiosity. Curiosity's got a bunch of flat tires. It's been exploring, I'm not making this up, has been exploring the Gale crater on Mars since it touched down back in August 2012. And its primary task is to assess whether Mars is or ever was supporting life, or if there's life there now. Well, we know that there is, but that's another story. The rover, part of NASA's Mars Science Laboratory mission, sends back all of these raw images. Raw, that's the key word, about what it's encountering right now based on commands sent from the mission team. Well, these freshly released photos show that the 6 wheels of the robot have suffered extreme scrapes, indentations, and even holes. Yeah. Curiosity has got flat tires. You should see these chunks that are it travels. Now, listen to this. It travels 1 centimeter per second. So how rough can it be? The gravity is different there, too, as well. How rough can it really be? Look at these images of Curiosity. There are literally chunks missing out of those tires. And to follow up on that note, a new report says development on the sample return cache system for NASA's next rover mission to the Red Planet is behind schedule. Possibly now it's so bad it's delaying the next rover's launch. Okay, it may be at risk of missing its July 2020 launch date, adding millions to the project's cost, number one, if engineers don't step up development of several key technologies. And the audit of the program was released earlier today. Of particular concern right now is the system to collect and store soil and rock samples for the eventual return back to Earth. An audit by the agency's Office of Inspector General, the OIG, found that 5 of the project's key technologies were lagging. The report also said that 90% of the engineering drawings, 90%, that were expected to be finished by next month's critical design review do not appear to be on track. And I am quoting here from the report. The so-called Mars 2020 rover is a $2.4 billion follow-up mission to NASA's current Curiosity expedition. You know, the one with the flat tires. All right, here we go. This is the Elon Musk news that is going to blow your mind. Some things, my friends, you just can't make up. But I'm quoting here from Elon Musk. He tweeted out, "Traffic is driving me nuts." That was last December. And he said that he was going to build a tunnel boring machine and just start digging. Well, it says something about Musk that most of us weren't sure whether he was joking or not. He quickly replied on his own tweet, and I'm quoting here, "I'm actually going to do this," end quote. He mentioned starting the Boring Company, B-O-R-I-N-G, as in tunnel boring, and added tunnels to his Twitter bio. So now, if you go to his Twitter account, you'll see the Boring Company and tunnels are now part of his bio, alongside Tesla, SpaceX, and OpenAI. Now, it looks like his plan is forging ahead, because last week, in a series of new tweets, Musk provided a couple of new nuggets of information. And I'm quoting here again. "Exciting progress on the tunnel front. Plan to start digging next month or so." He tweeted that on Wednesday. And when asked whether the tunnel was real, he responded that it would start across from my desk at SpaceX, Crenshaw, and the 105 freeway, which is 5 minutes from LAX, end quote. So a Twitter responded back and said, "Are you serious? Like, seriously serious?" And Musk replied, "Yep." And we started digging the tunnel tonight. And he went on to say, if you go out in front of SpaceX, you will see the hole that we have started. Some things you just can't make up. Elon Musk is boring a tunnel right here in L.A. And I think what he's planning on doing, if you read the series of tweets, he's going to bore a tunnel from SpaceX underneath the Santa Monica Mountains and head straight into the valley and continue up to Bakersfield, maybe the Mojave Desert. This has been Fade to Black. I want to thank right now Del Bigtree and Sean Stone. Thank you guys so much. Great show tonight. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee Jonas. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vatoa, Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2016 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, right here, Mark McCandlish and the ARV for our 600th show. Until tomorrow night, everybody be safe. Go Beckley Tepe.
Wow.